The journey of a Pokémon researcher. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76 Combat Training. After leaving Xuanjian's side and confirming that Xuanjian could not know his actions, Xuanjian spoke. I'm scared to death. This kid is a monster. His physical fitness is so good, but his spirit is even stronger. Although Xuanjian did not find the champion seed hidden in Xuanjian's body during the superpower detection, he found that Xuanjian's physical fitness was extremely outstanding. But what really surprised him was that Xuanjian's mental power actually discovered it when its superpower just touched him, and if it had not been careful enough and did not show any malice, its superpower would be completely blocked by Xuanjian. Mental power is not equal to superpower. It is a more basic energy than superpower. If a person or elf with superpower has strong mental power, his superpower will be greatly increased. Similarly, even if a creature with strong mental power does not have superpower, it is difficult to be controlled by superpower and has a strong resistance to superpower. The strengthening brought by the nourishment of Changpan's power is all around, not only improving Xuanjian's physical fitness, but also strengthening his spirit. Xuanjian's mental power is already strong, and after strengthening again, it is so strong that it is almost not like a human. After a pause, Xuanjian asked, by the way, Masuo, why did you teach out your most precious things? Among what Masuo learned, that set of movements was not the most valuable, but it was definitely one of the top ones. For those registered disciples, Masuo only taught them the basic breathing method, but did not pass on this set of movements that could be used to adjust and construct their own breathing method. Nothing, I just think the boy is pretty good. Masuo chuckled. Besides, that guy wants to deal with this guy, and I don't like that guy, so how can I not give him a hard time? But with this boy's current ability, it's not enough to fight against that guy, right? If he can grow up a few more years, it will be about the same. That's not necessarily true. I think you want to take that boy as your apprentice, right? That's right. If I directly propose it, the boy probably won't be very interested, but I'll get on the bus first and buy the ticket later, so that the boy can get the sweetness first, and then he won't want to give up. I have a hunch that the boy can give that guy a hard fall. Okay, whatever you want. You're still so cunning. Xuanjian smacked his lips. To be honest, it's really depressing to be a partner with you. Your hunch is even more accurate than my psychic department. After lunch, Xuanjian continued to practice the set of movements and tried to find his own breathing method. But after many attempts, Xuanjian found that the effect of his adjustment was not good, and the breathing method was even worse than the original one. After practicing for a whole afternoon, Xuanjian still couldn't improve his breathing method, but it was getting late, so Xuanjian had to go back. Although the power of Changpan was reducing fatigue, today's training and exercise were very heavy. After dinner, Xuanjian, Duogi and Caesar returned to their rooms to rest, and slept until dawn. The next morning, Xuanjian came to the training ground very early and began to explore the breathing method. He suddenly thought that when he exercised, the Changpan seeds in his body would expand and contract with his movements. Could he use this as a basis to improve his breathing method? Thinking of this, Xuanjian began to practice. Unexpectedly, he found the feeling quickly after a try and soon improved his breathing method. At noon, Masuo came to the training ground with Xuanjian leisurely. Seeing Xuanjian really practicing, he said, don't be impatient, take your time, and it takes time to find a breathing method that suits you. Xuanjian nodded. His two elves were still looking for a breathing method and had no clue. Obviously, this was not a simple matter, but he had the Changpan seeds to help him cheat, which was obviously a big advantage. You have practiced breathing techniques this morning, so I will teach you how to use boxing techniques in fighting this afternoon. When you are proficient, there will be kicking techniques, as well as the key to effectively using the body to fight. When you are more proficient in basic breathing techniques, I will teach you my original footwork. After saying this, Masuo took off his martial arts uniform, revealing his upper body covered with scars. Probably because he is a fighter, Masuo is the kind of person who looks thin when dressed and has flesh when undressed. After taking off his clothes, his body is full of strong muscles. Although he does not look as strong as a bodybuilder, in fact, these are all well-trained muscles, far from those fancy ones. Next, Maso taught Xuanjian how to punch and exert force in fighting. These techniques are not difficult and can be learned easily. The difficulty lies in a lot of training, turning them into physical instincts, and coordinating them with breathing techniques to show their power. I have already taught you these power techniques. In fact, you don't need to learn them specifically. You will learn them naturally after fighting more. But I see that you don't seem to have fought before and don't like fighting, so I will teach you the techniques I summarized myself. Just practice more after you go down. Maso didn't know that Xuanjian had found his own breathing method, so he left after teaching the boxing method, letting Xuanjian practice on his own. The power of boxing is very simple for elves, because they have experienced many battles, and their bodies are very flexible, so they can master it quickly, so they mainly practice breathing. Xuanjian is the opposite. With the help of the seed of Changpan, he has already touched the breathing method, but he is still unfamiliar with the techniques of power and punching, so he spent all his time practicing boxing. Fortunately, with the help of the power of Changpan, Xuanjian can persist, otherwise with his practice method, his muscles would have been fatigued and damaged long ago. But the effect of such training is also very significant. Xuanjian quickly mastered the skills of power and could do some sparring with his own elves. Maso knew nothing about this and thought Xuanjian had just memorized these skills. His goal was to instill this knowledge into Xuanjian's brain within a month so that he could slowly discover its role in the future. In addition to the crazy practice, Xuanjian also practiced with 2 elves. In the process, he finally understood why the club was reluctant to let the electric monster join at the beginning. The static electricity characteristic is really a killer for fighting. Every time Xuanjian or Scyther's attack fell on the electric monster, the moment it came into contact with its fur, it would be electrocuted by the abundant static electricity on its fur, and often paralyzed. Fortunately, the electric monster has a lot of experience in getting along with people, and will not discharge electricity at will like most newly recovered electric elves. Otherwise, even with the power of Changpan for treatment, Xuanjian and Scyther would have fallen down long ago. On the other side, Caesar also stepped up his strategy for Duoga. It's a pity that Duoga did not show any other performance except agreeing to let him join the team the day after getting the recording. Instead, he prepared food for Xuanjian and his elves every day. But Caesar didn't care about it. He had plenty of time and patience. He believed that as long as he persisted, Duoga would be impressed by him sooner or later. When you work hard, time always passes quickly. The 1-month vacation will soon be over, and Maso has taught Xuanjian everything he wanted to teach him. On this day, after Maso taught the last step, he did not leave immediately as usual, but asked, "Xuanjian, how is your breathing method?" Xuanjian scratched his head. "Teacher, I have completely found my own breathing method." "It doesn't matter, I can't find it for a while." "What? Say it again." Maso couldn't believe his ears. "Teacher, I found my own breathing method." "Really?" Maso couldn't believe it. Finding the breathing method is the most difficult step in his school. When using the basic breathing method, the power of his school is not obvious, but after finding it, it is almost a smooth road. "Show it to me." Xuanjian practiced the set of movements as he was told. During these days of practice, that breathing method has gradually become its instinct and no longer needs to be used deliberately. Watching Xuanjian practicing his moves, Masuo felt that it was smooth and flowing, without any stagnation. It was indeed the effect that could only be achieved by the breathing method that was completely suitable for him. Masuo's hands were shaking with excitement. "Xuanjian, you are very talented. I ask you, are you willing to stay and learn fighting with me? Don't consider anything else, just tell me your most sincere thoughts." "It would be a pity to let go of such a talented disciple," Masuo asked excitedly. Hearing Masuo's invitation, Xuanjian was very moved. After this period of contact, he knew that the other party was very powerful. If he followed the other party to learn, he would definitely learn a lot. Recalling his efforts with the elves during this period, and Masuo's seemingly careless but actually very attentive training, Xuanjian almost had the urge to agree immediately, but in the end, Xuanjian's reason suppressed that trace of greed. Becoming a fighter was not his ideal, and the progress he made was actually largely dependent on the seeds of the evergreen, not how much talent he really had in this area. Becoming a researcher and trainer, traveling around the world to explore the mysteries of the world is what he really wants. Looking at Maso's expectant eyes, Xuanjian finally shook his head. "Sorry, Maso. I practice fighting only for self-defense and to give some guidance to the elves." and my talent in fighting is not as good as you think. I rely on a lot of external forces. Alice, what a pity. Maso's eyes dimmed and shook his head disappointedly. No matter what external forces I rely on, this is also your opportunity. But this kind of thing cannot be forced. If you really don't like it, forget it. Teacher, you will definitely find someone who is willing to inherit your mantle. Xuanjian looked at the disappointed Maso and comforted him. Maso smiled bitterly. It's not that simple. But to be honest, you can make your own choice and not be easily tempted to change your original intention. This is very good. If you don't want to be my disciple, then this is all I can teach you, but it is enough to help you defend yourself and train the elves. Thank you for your teachings, teacher. Xuanjian thanked sincerely. Although the other party did not seem to spend too much time on him, the things he taught him were very precious and practical, and it was difficult to learn from other places. You don't have to thank me. I was entrusted by someone. Maso emphasized the word entrusted deliberately. Although he couldn't tell the reason, he gave a hint so as not to violate his oath. Xuanjian also heard the abnormality in Maso's tone, but he just thought that Caesar had used some means that made him unhappy in order to make him agree to teach him, and he didn't care too much. Seeing that Xuanjian was suspicious but didn't think deeply, Maso secretly said it was a pity, but it was already the limit to do so, so he turned to admonish, Xuanjian, you must remember that everything you do should be like the choice you made today. Don't go against your true heart, otherwise you will find one day that you will lose more than you gain. Yes, teacher, I remember. Well, then you can go. Maso turned and left, thinking to himself, boy, this is all I can do to help you. Well, I admit that in order to finish this part as short as possible, this chapter was written too hastily, which may disappoint some book friends. But after all, the theme of this book is Pokémon, not anything else. Everything must serve this theme, and everything else is just auxiliary materials used to lay the groundwork for the plot. Chapter 77, Another Contest. During dinner, when Xuanjian told Duoga and Caesar that he had finished his martial arts training, Caesar excitedly yelled, "What? You said you have finished martial arts training?" What a joke. He used his power to suppress Maso, just to make Xuanjian spend a lot of energy on martial arts training, so as to create opportunities for him and Duoga to be alone, but it has not even been a month, and this guy told him that he has finished his training. That's right, you heard it right. Xuanjian said calmly. Although he didn't guess what tricks the other party was doing, the other party was obviously not a good guy. It was obviously not an easy thing to let Maso teach him martial arts. The other party must have some ulterior motives for doing this, so seeing the other party was furious, Xuanjian felt relieved. You didn't just learn a fancy trick, did you? Fighting is not a simple thing. How can you learn it in a month? Caesar questioned. Maybe I'm more talented. Xuanjian boasted shamelessly. Why don't you try it yourself? Okay. Caesar nodded without hesitation. I spent a lot of effort to let you learn fighting. If you don't learn it, it will be a waste of my kindness. I have also practiced fighting, so I will personally weigh it. If you are not qualified, I will send you back to learn again. Caesar thought that he used Maso's handle to persuade the other party to come out to teach fighting. Maso must be a little unconvinced and must have secretly made things difficult for him, so that Xuanjian could learn something simply, so he could graduate so quickly. You too, it's easy to get hurt in a fight, why not change it to a battle between elves? Duoga said. It doesn't matter, I will be careful not to hurt him. Caesar said, although Duoga's words seemed to be concerned about the two, but Caesar knew that the other party actually favored Xuanjian more, because the other party obviously didn't believe that Xuanjian could learn to duel so quickly, and advised the two not to fight because he was afraid that Xuanjian would suffer. Caesar was a little annoyed when he thought that his plan and efforts during this period had not worked. He did not obey Duoga's decision as usual, but refuted him. Xuanjian understood what Duoga meant, smiled at Duoga, and comforted him. It's okay, we know our limits. The core of the fighting technique that Maso taught him is breathing. As long as this is done, other moves are very simple. With the help of the Takua seed, all of this is not a problem. Then let's go to the beach outside. Caesar said. Xuanjian nodded and followed Caesar out, and Duoga followed him out with a worried look on his face. Arriving on the beach, the two stood still, and Caesar said to Xuanjian, you should know that many things in this world are not as simple as they seem. You will soon find out how ignorant you are. This world does have many mysteries, and I am indeed ignorant, But as a noble, you don't necessarily know more than I do. It's useless to brag. That's right, then let the facts speak for themselves. Caesar wanted to refute, but the voice of Duoge, the referee, had already sounded. Ready, 3, 2, 1, start. As the order fell, the two rushed towards each other at the same time. Caesar took the lead in attacking, relying on his older age, height and long legs. As a noble son, although he did learn fighting, he had never experienced real fighting, nor did he spend too much effort on it, and he only reached the basic level of just being rated. His victory relied only on the advantage of his physical age. He was seen punching Xuanjian with force, but Xuanjian could not attack him because his body was not fully developed, and could only passively defend. After hard practice, although Xuanjian had only practiced with his own elf, except for the new footwork, he had a certain foundation in everything else. He combined the breathing method, took a stance, and easily took Caesar's punch. At the same time, he grabbed Caesar's arm and pushed him back a few steps. Damn, this kid is so strong. Is he really talented in fighting? No, I can't lose. I can only use the power of the dragon. Thinking of this, Caesar stimulated the dragon power in his body. This is the power inherited from his family. With the blessing of this power, his combat effectiveness has greatly increased, and he can fight with ordinary fighters. The blessing of the dragon power did not show obvious performance, but Xuanjian's keen perception told him that the opponent became more terrifying in an instant, so he couldn't help but be careful. Caesar, who was blessed by the dragon power, gained confidence and immediately rushed towards Xuanjian. Knowing that he couldn't resist, Xuanjian took a deep breath, posed, and took advantage of the opponent's carelessness and lack of control over the surge of power to throw him out with a back throw. You lose. Xuanjian said, looking at Caesar who fell on the beach in a mess. Caesar was a little unwilling, but he knew that he had indeed lost, and the opponent was indeed a real talent, but he was not willing to end it like this. I can confirm that you have learned fighting skills, but I still need to confirm how well your Pokémon is trained. Come out, Xiu. Welcome to the inspection. Come out, Electra. Xiu, use Shadow Ball. This time Caesar was not polite and launched the attack first. Electra, let the opponent see the results of our training. Use Thunder Fist. Electra's arms were originally very strong, so when practicing fighting, he mainly practiced boxing. After Maso's guidance and the assistance of breathing methods, he has now learned the Thunder Fist skill. After receiving the command, Electra immediately rushed towards Eevee. As for the oncoming Shadow Ball, it lightly dodged it at the moment of contact, letting it hit the beach, and then rushed to Eevee, raised his fist with lightning, and punched from bottom to top. Eevee jumped up, greatly reducing the damage caused by the hook, and at the same time, he spit out another energy ball from his mouth, which was the power of Skill Awakening. Although this skill is a general move, it will become a different attribute after it is used. For Eevee who has taken the energy block, it is also assumed to have used the move with a new attribute. The energy ball that Eevee spit out this time is blue and has water attributes, which means that it is one step closer to using the treasure. The electric monster who does not have life-saving skills cannot withstand a big move like the treasure, and can only defeat it before it completes its preparation. Therefore, for this skill, the electric monster raised his fist without dodging or avoiding it. Even with the assistance of the breathing method, the electric monster has also been greatly enhanced, and the control of the lightning fist is handy. Lightning flashed on his fist again, and he smashed the energy ball with one punch. Xiu, see through. Caesar ordered. Eevee immediately used the skill, and with the assistance of the skill, he easily dodged the electric monster's attack. One step closer to using the treasure. I saw the comments of the book friends in the comment area. As usual, I can't reply, so I can only say here, the heroine agreed to Caesar's joining for two reasons. 1. The heroine felt that Xuanjian didn't value her and didn't understand her feelings, so she was angry. She wanted to use Caesar to stimulate him and make him react. 2. She wanted to find out what Caesar was planning. Maybe I didn't write it clearly enough. Finally, I think that although it is a Pokémon fanfiction, the description of the characters is indispensable, but since everyone doesn't like it, try not to write these things in the future. Chapter 78 2 Victories. Electric Monster, Electric. Xuanjian also ordered. The effects of the electric system are basically the same, but the power is different. Although the electric shock skill is a special attack skill, it is more often used to attack through contact, because its power is not enough to send the electric energy to a distant place. However, now Eevee is using see-through to avoid the fist of the electric shock monster. The distance between the two sides is not very far. At such a close distance, the electric shock is still easy to hit. The electric light on the fist of the electric shock monster suddenly increased, piercing the air, and sending the current to Eevee, who had just dodged the thunder fist, immediately electrocuting Eevee and making him scream. One of the troubles of the electric skill is that it often brings a paralysis effect. Even if you are lucky enough not to trigger the paralysis, the electric current will make the muscles sore and weak after being hit, and you can't use your strength for a while. After Eevee was hit by the electric current, fortunately, the paralysis effect was not triggered, but his own action slowed down involuntarily, and he was hit by the other fist of the electric shock monster. This time, Eevee was not so lucky. The characteristic of the electric monster is static electricity. In addition, it usually pays attention to maintaining and cleaning its hair, making its hair very clean, so its whole body is charged. As long as you have physical contact with it, it is easy to be paralyzed by the static electricity on its fur. The electric monster attacked Eevee with ordinary fists, and it could not release lightning punches continuously. However, even so, Eevee triggered the static electricity characteristic and was paralyzed. Xiu, use round pupils. Caesar ordered. Eevee's body could not make big movements due to paralysis, but this skill released with eyes was not affected too much. Hearing the trainer's order, Eevee immediately opened his eyes and looked at the electric monster. The four eyes met, and Eevee's eyes flashed with a beautiful and mysterious light. Coupled with the injured look, the electric monster felt sympathy and slowed down the attack in his hand. Even the lightning punch that had just lit up dimmed. At this time, the role of the trainer is reflected. Xuanjian ordered loudly, "Electric, cheer up and don't fall into the opponent's trap." After this period of getting along and practicing together, the intimacy between Electric and Xuanjian has increased a lot. Electric admires the master who endures the paralysis caused by its static electricity and practices with it. Hearing Xuanjian's words, Electric immediately woke up and was very upset when he found that he was distracted during the battle. "Electric, don't look at the opponent's eyes, look at its feet, and rush over to attack. Xiu, use sand picking." The paralysis of Eevee's body has almost been lifted at this time. I saw it push its forelimbs hard, and with the soft sand under its feet, it quickly raised a curtain of sand, preventing Electric from easily attacking at close range. After using this skill, Eevee has met the conditions for using the treasure, and Xuanjian's idea of preventing the opponent from using the treasure was shattered. However, this does not mean that Xuanjian has no chance of winning. After all, in order to use the treasure, Eevee has been preparing. In addition, due to the different attributes, its killer synchronized interference cannot be used, so it did not cause much effective damage to the electric monster. Xiu, use the treasure. Although this skill does not necessarily bring victory, if you don't use this skill, you will definitely lose, so Caesar shouted his order without hesitation. Electric monster, use the cross to block it. Xuanjian also issued an order, allowing the electric monster to use an innate genetic skill. Using the treasure, Eevee rushed towards the electric monster with an indomitable momentum. The electric monster also raised its strong arms, crossed them into a cross, and met Eevee. Both sides collided without giving in. The airflow stirred up the sand around them, forming a sand rain, and the place where the two sides were located was washed out by the aftermath of the collision. A huge sand pit. After the collision, both sides staggered back. In the collision just now, the electric monster's skills have an attribute advantage, and it has more remaining physical strength, while Eevee's skills are more powerful and higher in level. In addition, the two sides are of similar size, so the damage they suffered is about the same, and it is difficult to tell who is better. After a big move collision, both sides are a little tired, and neither of them immediately launched an attack, but confronted each other. It's a pity that static electricity was not triggered this time. Xuanjian thought secretly, otherwise he could have directly declared victory. However, Xuanjian is not worried. Although the electric monster, which has learned fighting, has not yet created its own breathing method, with a blessing of the basic breathing method, it will recover faster than Eevee. Things are just as Xuanjian expected. As time passes, the rhythmic breathing of the electric monster gradually calms down under its deliberate control, while Eevee's breathing is still a little messy and heavy, and it is obvious that it has not recovered from the collision just now. Xuanjian would certainly not miss this opportunity, and immediately ordered, "Electric monster, cross attack." Hearing Xuanjian's order, and looking at the electric monster rushing over, Caesar's pupils shrank, and he quickly ordered, "EV, ace." The power of the ace skill is determined by the remaining physical strength. At this time, Eevee's physical strength is undoubtedly very low after using multiple skills continuously. The power of the skill used is very strong. A huge card-shaped object was summoned by and blocked in front of it, blocking the cross attack of the electric monster head-on. However, after using this skill, Eevee's breathing became more chaotic, and it was completely at the end of its strength. The cross attack was finally blocked by the ace, but Eevee no longer had the ability to launch an attack in a short time. In Caesar's unwilling eyes, Xuanjian shouted the last order, and it, "Electric monster, electric shock." Even with the help of breathing, after several fierce collisions, the electric monster's arm was also seriously damaged, and it was no longer able to use the Thunder Fist, but other skills that were not issued through the arm were not a problem. At this time, it was standing in front of Ibrahimovic, not far from Ibrahimovic, and completely within the range of the electric shock attack. A golden electric light appeared on the body of the electric shock monster, covering Ibrahimovic. Ibrahimovic screamed and then fell down in the electric light. "Xiu, come back, you've worked hard." Caesar took back Ibrahimovic with a gloomy face. Both confrontations ended with his failure, which made him completely lose the position of letting Xuanjian continue to learn fighting. The plan that wasted a lot of energy was shattered, and Xuanjian got the benefit in vain. Even with his cunning, he was a little angry. Xuanjian on the other side didn't have so many troubles. The performance of the electric shock monster undoubtedly showed that the training this time was very effective, and it was worth giving up his vacation for this. The electric shock monster was also very happy to win the game. It forgot to be shy for a while and sang and danced around Xuanjian. Xuanjian also praised it well. "Leave the elves to me, I will help you recover." Duoge walked over and said to the two, "Thank you for your help." Xuanjian took the electric monster back into the Pokeball and handed it to Duoge along with Caesar. There was no Pokemon Center on the island. Only some treatment machines could provide a rough treatment. The details still depended on Duoge. "You're welcome." Duoge took the Pokeballs of the two and said to Xuanjian, "During your training, your other Pokemons also trained very hard. You should also encourage them. They have made great progress." Hearing Duoge's words, Xuanjian felt a little ashamed. During the time when Xuanjian was practicing fighting, in addition to Scyther and Electric Monster learning fighting together, the other Pokemons were probably infected by Xuanjian and were not idle. After a short rest, they also started training. Since Xuanjian was learning fighting, he only made training plans for them and did not provide more guidance for them. Xuanjian decided to encourage them tomorrow. Caesar on the other side was even more angry. During this period, Duoge spent most of his time accompanying and taking care of Xuanjian's Pokemon training. Although Duoge's Pokemon also joined the training army, Caesar thought that this should not be a reason for him to be ignored. Although he knew that it would be more beneficial for him not to let Xuanjian know about these things, Caesar, who was full of anger at this time, could not care about so much. "You left your own Pokemon alone, but asked Miss Duoge to take care of it for you. I have never seen you as a trainer like this." After saying this, Caesar regretted it. If he told this, wouldn't the other party know how much effort Duoge had spent on him? If that kid wakes up, then everything he did before will be in vain. In an instant, Caesar regretted it so much that he wanted to eat back what he said. Xuanjian on the other side didn't think so much. As a guy who had never been in a relationship or flirted with a girl, he couldn't understand Duoge's painstaking efforts and Caesar's annoyance at all, and he felt more guilty about the Pokemon. Although it is impossible to take care of all Pokemon at the same time because of the limited energy of trainers, it is common to entrust Pokemon, but Xuanjian still felt guilty when he heard Caesar's accusation. "I'm sorry, I didn't do it well, I will definitely apologize to them." "Well, what else?" Duoge asked. "Ah, what else?" Xuanjian was a little confused, but when he saw Duoge's bright eyes staring at him, he remembered the agreement between him and Duoge. At present, Magikarp has evolved. Although the information provided by Duoge is full of loopholes, he has to admit that the other party's information played a key role, and the other party has given him so much help in normal times. He should fulfill the agreement. Thinking of this, Xuanjian said, "By the way, thank you very much, Duoge." I will definitely work hard to complete our agreement as soon as possible. Although others help him take care of the elves in order to complete the agreement as soon as possible, there are no hard and fast rules when the two of them agree on this kind of thing, so I still have to say thank you. Hearing Xuanjian's words, Duoga turned and left, not letting Xuanjian see his tightly clenched teeth. While walking back, he squeezed out a few words from his teeth. You're welcome. I'm going to treat the elves. Did I say something wrong? Xuanjian also felt that Duoga was suddenly not right, but he couldn't figure it out, so he asked Caesar. Caesar also pretended to be confused and said, no. It's just that you are a little idiotic. This way I feel relieved. Suddenly, Caesar felt better, and even the anger of losing twice disappeared. Next chapter starts to challenge Xuanjian. Chapter 79 Xuanjian Island. Xuanjian, who is in a low EQ, obviously didn't understand what the problem was. As a result, he was confused when Duoga said he would invite Caesar to go on the road together the next day. However, after hearing that Caesar would bear all the food and lodging expenses along the way, he immediately changed his attitude to welcome Caesar's joining, which made Duoga grit his teeth. After a little preparation, Xuanjian and the other two ended their vacation and started to go to Xuanjian Island in the west of the Orange Alliance to challenge the Western Star there and obtain the Sakura badge. In order to achieve the goal in one fell swoop, Xuanjian once again conducted sailing training with Gyarados. Probably after the last cooperation and the improvement of Xuanjian's flexibility during this period of practice, Xuanjian felt that he cooperated very well with Gyarados this time, and was able to gradually get on the full-speed dragon. Because Caesar joined and volunteered to bear the expenses along the way, the three chose to settle on more prosperous islands along the way. And through getting along the way, Xuanjian also got to know Caesar better. Caesar is an ancient nobleman from the hometown of dragons in the Unova region, and he has inherited the power of dragons. Although there is only one word difference between the power of dragon and the power of controlling dragon, this power of dragon and the power of controlling dragon of the dragon clan are two completely different concepts. The power of controlling dragon can be added to dragon attribute elves or some pseudo-dragon elves to strengthen their dragon attributes or give them dragon attributes. But the power of dragon can only be used on humans, with multiple effects such as strengthening, healing, defense, and attack. In the era when technology was not developed, their family relied on this power to make countless contributions and thus prospered. However, with the establishment of the alliance and the advancement of technology, the role of dragon power can gradually be completed by machines, so that their family slowly declined. Caesar's ancestors were not reconciled, so they launched a rebellion, and were eventually defeated and expelled from the hometown of dragons. After that, they have been wandering around in various regions, and they are not welcomed everywhere. They have been living in a very miserable state, but I don't know what good luck they have had recently, and they have picked themselves up again. This guy is very good at fighting with the blessing of dragon power. Elite fighters are not his opponents. Xuanjian won that night only because the opponent was careless. However, this guy actually only had one Pokémon, Eevee, which was extremely weak. As for why he encountered a shipwreck, this guy was evasive and unwilling to confess. However, he claimed that he was so miserable at that time, largely because he did not have a water Pokémon to rescue him. After unveiling the mystery of Caesar, Xuanjian also understood that the other party's style of being proud of being a noble at any time was actually just sundeer. After all, his family had lived worse than ordinary people for a long time before. Seeing that the other party had borne the travel expenses, Xuanjian generously did not care about him. Due to the tacit cooperation with Gyarados, Xuanjian did not have to spend a lot of energy on traveling every day, so he had more time to train his Pokémon during his rest every day. During the vacation on Sunlight Island, they were trained strictly according to Xuanjian's plan, and their strengths were improved to a certain extent. Among them, Gyarados learned Dragon Tail by himself, and learned Dragon Fury from Charmeleon at the same time, and learned the two skills of Guard and Return from the skill machine, which improved its strength the most. The second is Starfish, which has a rare analytical attribute and will be the main force to challenge the Xuanjian gym. Starfish with analytical characteristics can analyze things more accurately, and can predict and calculate the trajectory of water guns and moving targets when shooting, and the height will not be much weaker than Sea Dragon with sniper characteristics. Personally, I think that in a real environment, the impact of characteristics is multifaceted, such as sniper characteristics, which can bring a certain hit bonus. Therefore, Xuanjian arranged water gun shooting training for it. After completing the training, starfish can already use multiple water guns to attack at the same time. Butterfree, Eevee, Charmeleon, and Forkbit were also arranged for various trainings and achieved considerable improvements. I won't list them one by one here. In addition, Squirtle, who participated in the training together with Duoge, did not participate in any battles because of the trainer, but he insisted on following Xuanjian's Pokemon training. After a long time, he finally evolved into Squirtle, which made Duoge very happy. However, I have to mention the Pokemon egg given by Sakuki. I don't know if it is because it was just laid, but there is no sign of hatching yet. Xuanjian even thought that there was a problem or it was a dead egg. Duoge was also taking care of unhatched Pokemon for the first time. After consulting Joey, he found out that it was because the eggs of ground-type Pokemon took a long time to hatch. Xuanjian was relieved but still a little worried. After consulting Joey, he tried to inject a trace of Champion's power into it every day, so that the Pokemon in the egg could get some energy supplements and help its development. As for what Pokemon this egg will hatch, Joey smiled and didn't say, only saying that he would not let Xuanjian down. The topic returned to the challenge of Xiaogan Gym. Whether through the memory of the previous life or the information obtained in this life, the ordinary challenge of Zygon Island is to shoot fixed targets, mobile targets, and surfing on the sea with water-type elves. For those who want to get rewards, they need to do 3 projects: shooting, surfing, and elf battles, and only water-type elves can participate. However, from the information I have heard, special challenges are not difficult, because the Orange Alliance itself is not a very strong alliance, and it can even be said to be the weakest alliance. Even the seats of the 4 kings of the alliance are vacant. Even the Ice King Kona, who is proud of the people of the Orange Islands, is actually a king registered in Kanto. He just chose to reside here because his hometown is in the Orange Islands. However, this is also because the permanent population of the Orange Alliance is too small, and most of them are tourists from other places. Therefore, Xuanjian has a lot of ideas about the rewards for Zygon Gym. After all, there are not many such weak gyms. As long as you adapt to the opponent's special challenge method and prepare, it is not difficult to win. With this idea, Xuanjian stepped up his training along the way, and even took the initiative to take Gyarados to fight those huge waves. The result of such training is that Gyarados not only learned the 2 skills of water wave and surfing, but also swam faster when carrying Xuanjian and Dragonite without a trainer. Dragonite is a former king-level Pokemon, and even without the cooperation of a trainer, its swimming speed is comparable to that of an elite-level Pokemon. In the process of continuous training and preparation, Xuanjian and the other 2 arrived at the destination of this trip, Zygon Island. Zygon Island is a large island, but the Zygon Gym, which serves as a landmark, is not difficult to find, and the 3 of them quickly arrived at the Zygon Gym. After submitting the application, Xuanjian was notified that the challenge would be carried out in 2 days, so the 3 of them stayed on the island and prepared for Xuanjian's second gym challenge. Well, this chapter is mainly to fill in the gaps and explain some things. The next chapter will officially start the challenge of the Zygon Gym. Chapter 80, Challenging Xiaogan Gym. 2 days later, Xuanjian arrived at the Xiaogan Gym at the agreed time. At this time, Guo Mei, the Western Star of the Xiaogan Gym, was already waiting there. Western Star Guo Mei is a woman in her 20s with a heroic appearance. Although she is wearing a loose long skirt, she can't hide her curvy figure. Xuanjian guessed that this was probably because she had been surfing for many years. Seeing Xuanjian and the other 2 coming, Guo Mei came up to them. Since Xuanjian was doing a special challenge, it was naturally impossible to deal with it like an ordinary challenge. In addition to the fact that special challenges must be rewarded, it is also because special challenges affect the score of a gym. If the success rate of special challenges is too high, the score of the gym will be seriously reduced. So even though the opponent is a trainer who has only participated in a gym challenge once, Guo Mei still pays enough attention to it. Welcome to Challenge Xiaogan Gym. Anyway, Guo Mei still put on a warm attitude. After all, the annual funding of the gym is largely determined by the number of challenged trainers. Except for the gym that does not rely on the league's funding, most gyms will welcome the challenged trainers and pay attention to controlling their own strength, so as not to embarrass the challenged trainers, so as to attract more trainers. Hello, Miss Guo Mei, thank you for your trouble. Xuanjian also answered politely. I accept your challenge. Maybe you have known the relevant rules before, but I still want to repeat them. The special challenge of Xuanjian Gym adopts a 3-round system, but it is not a simple Pokemon battle. In the first round, we will have a skill hit rate competition. Both sides will send a water elf to use the water gun skill for a target shooting competition. The second round will be a Pokemon battle, and the third round will be a sea race. I understand. I accept this plan. Xuanjian nodded. Seeing that Xuanjian agreed, Guomei said, "Okay, then let's start the first round of the shooting competition. Please follow me." The group came to an open field. Guomei pointed to a field of red and yellow cans painted on the east side of the venue and introduced, "The target shooting competition uses mixed targets. First, you have to shoot at fixed targets made of cans. This part is for trainers to shoot their own targets. There are 10 in total. 5 points are awarded for successfully knocking down your own target, and 10 points are deducted for hitting someone else's target. The person who finishes first gets the first shot on the next round." Then she pointed to a row of inverted targets of different sizes and shapes above the cans and said, "After shooting at the can targets, these hanging targets will move, and then everyone will take turns to shoot at the targets with one attack at a time. The standard is to knock down the hanging targets. Each target is 4 points, and there are a total of 15 targets. It ends when all are shot." Finally, Guomei pointed to a large bunch of hydrogen balloons fixed to the ground and said, "Finally, it's time to shoot at these balloons." At that time, these hydrogen balloons will be released into the air, and both sides will shoot freely with water guns. Only one balloon can be destroyed at a time, and each balloon is worth 2 points. After introducing 3 different rules, Guomei turned to Xuanjian. "In addition, 2 points will be deducted for each missed target. Any other questions?" Xuanjian swallowed his saliva. This difficulty is totally different from what was rumored. "Ms. Guomei, can I adapt in advance?" "Sorry, no." Guomei shook her head. "But you can change to normal challenge, which is much easier." After a struggle, Xuanjian finally said, "I decided to accept this plan. I want a red target." Guomei nodded. "Okay, then let's start. Let's shoot the fixed targets first. Come out, Sea Dragon. Let's go to Starfish." As a Pokemon with a sniper characteristic, Sea Dragon is perfect for such occasions. However, Xuanjian Starfish is not inferior. With the analytical characteristic, its hit rate when shooting can also be comparable to that of Sea Dragon. Sea Dragon, our targets are yellow. Use the water gun to clear those targets that are easy to hit first. Starfish, our targets are red. Use the water gun as well. Start shooting from the targets on the left. After receiving the trainer's order, the 2 Pokemon began to act. A thin but powerful water gun spurted out of the slender mouth of Sea Dragon, easily knocking down the yellow cans one by one. Starfish was not inferior, shooting water guns from the corners, accurately knocking down the targets one by one. Soon, the targets scattered at the edge of the field were hit by the 2 Pokémons, leaving only the targets in the middle with alternating colors. At this time, it is not only the Pokémons that are tested, but also the trainer's judgment, because the trainer must select the targets to be hit and the order of shooting to avoid hitting other people's targets by mistake. Sea Dragon, aim at the target behind the left and attack. As an experienced person in this, Guomei took action first. The impact of Sea Dragon's water gun was so strong that it could knock down the cans with a very thin water gun, but Starfish obviously couldn't do this. Therefore, Guomei first ordered Sea Dragon to fire a thin water gun, passing through the staggered cans, and using the tiny gap, hit a target in the back. "Let's do it too, Hai Xingxing. Use the parabolic water gun to knock down the target directly behind you. Neither side will touch the target in front first, because once their own target is knocked down, the other side can hit their own target more easily, so both of them choose to attack the target behind them first. There will be obstacles when shooting from the front, and with the size of Hai Xingxing's water gun, it is difficult not to hit Guomei's target, so Xuanjian chose to attack from above. Anyway, the rule is that knocking down the can is considered a success, and there is no rule that it must be attacked from the front. So Hai Xingxing made a brief judgment and shot a stream of water into the air. The water gun formed a parabola under the action of gravity, and then fell on the target, knocking down the can. "Well done, Hai Xingxing," Xuanjian praised. Although he had done similar exercises before, he did not focus on training. Xuanjian was actually a little worried, But Hai Xingxing did not disappoint him. What a genius idea! Guo Mei commented. In terms of the strength and size of the water gun, apart from the iron cannon fish and the octopus barrel, there are few elves that can compete with the sea dragon, but the opponent actually came up with such a genius idea and played to his strengths. It was really not easy. Sea dragon, the opponent is very strong, we must not be careless, let's continue. Guo Mei's attention quickly returned to the game. Now is not the time to praise the opponent. So the two sides adopted different methods, played to their strengths and avoided their weaknesses, and gave full play to the specialties of their elves, scrambling to hit the target. In the end, the two actually finished a fixed target at the same time and entered the second round. Please recommend. Chapter 81, Challenging Xuanjian. There were only 15 hanging targets in the second round, which meant that the two of them were destined to widen the gap in this round, and the one who started first would undoubtedly have the advantage. Originally, the one who finished the first round first would attack first and then the other, but the two of them finished almost at the same time, so it was a question of who would go first. You go first. Guo Mei said generously. Okay, thank you Miss Guo Mei. Xuanjian was not polite either. If he went first, he could not only hit one more target, but also pick a simple target first. After all, the sizes and shapes of these hanging targets were different, and the difficulty was naturally different. Hai Xingxing, aim at the largest target and use the most powerful water gun. For these hanging targets, although they were all moving, hitting them was not a problem. The problem was how to ensure that the skills could be shot down after hitting them. Xuanjian, who didn't know how much effort it would take to shoot down the hanging targets, naturally let Hai Xingxing use the most powerful water gun. Hai Xingxing prepared for a while and immediately fired the most powerful water gun, hitting the hanging targets accurately, but he didn't expect that the hanging targets just shook and were not shot down. The larger the target, the thicker the fixed line. Although it is easy to hit, it is not easy to shoot it down. And because the hanging target is moving, only the impact force of the moment of hitting works. With the power of the water gun, it can also shoot down the targets after number 4. By the way, a friendly reminder, it is not necessary to use the water gun in this round. Guo Mei said with a smile, okay, it's our turn, Sea Dragon, use the water cannon to attack the largest target number 1. The power of the water cannon is much greater than that of the water gun, but the hit rate is not as good as that of the water gun, and it is more suitable for dealing with such a large target. As the water cannon sprayed by the Sea Dragon hit the target, the largest hanging target was shot down under the impact of the water cannon. Hai Xingxing, don't be discouraged, let's change the target. Use the water gun to attack the 4th target. Hai Xingxing has not yet learned how to use the water cannon, and can't hit the big target, so let's change to some smaller ones. It won't be that easy. Hai Silin, let's hit the 5th target. The targets were arranged from large to small. The 5th target was slightly smaller than the 4th one, and it was within the range that the water gun could hit. Guo Mei would not let Xuanjian find a way out so easily. As long as she competed with him and hit the targets that both sides could hit, then the rest would be up to her. The two sides fought back and forth, and soon, targets 4 to 13 were hit by both sides. The remaining targets were the two large targets 2 and 3, and the two small targets 14 and 15 that were difficult to hit. Xuanjian seemed to be in trouble. However, Xuanjian would not admit defeat. After a little observation, he immediately found a way out. Hai Xingxing, use the water gun to aim at the right side of target 3 and make it rotate. The shape of the hanging target was not a regular circle, but various shapes, which was to increase the difficulty of shooting. However, Xuanjian had an idea and used the asymmetrical shape of target 3 to make a fuss. Hai Xingxing fired a stream of water, hitting the right side of target number 3, causing target number 3 to spin. As target number 3 spun, the rope hanging on it became tighter and tighter. In order to ensure that these targets could be shot down, the ropes used were not very strong. As a result, the rope soon exceeded the load and broke, and target number 3 fell down. Xuanjian successfully attacked target number 3. What a smart idea! Guo Mei exclaimed, and then directed Hai Xinglang to shoot down target number 14. The last two targets were too small, requiring the elves to compress the water gun very thinly and have enough impact force to hit them, which was another challenge for Hai Xingxing. Not good, it seems that the last two targets are not something Xuanjian can shoot down. What should Xuanjian do? Duoge, who was watching the game, said worriedly. I'm not sure about target number 1, but I think I can give target number 2 a try. Hai Xingxing, use multiple water guns. Upon hearing Xuanjian's order, Hai Xingxing jumped up and fired water guns from the 5 corners at the same time, hitting target number 2 at the same time. The power of the 5 water guns was smaller than that of normal water guns, but the power after the combined attack was much stronger, and successfully shot down target number 2. You can actually do this? I really underestimated you, but I'm still ahead. Hai Silin, shoot down the last target number 15. Hai Silin fired a slender but powerful water gun and accurately hit target number 15, but something embarrassing happened. Although target number 15 swayed left and right, it was not shot down in the end. Damn it. Guo Mei was also surprised by the failure of Sea Thorn Dragon, but she quickly adjusted herself. After all, no one can guarantee that they will not make mistakes. It's okay, Sea Thorn Dragon, try harder next time. Guo Mei was not worried that Xuanjian would shoot down target number 15, because Sea Star could not shoot such a thin and powerful water gun. For the spherical target number 15, if it was not for the concentrated compressed water gun, it would basically be shot down. But for the elves who have not received special training, using such a thin compressed water gun is likely to miss the target. I would like to ask 2 questions. First, who made the rules of the special challenge? Second, you should be able to use other non-water skills, right? Xuanjian asked Guo Mei. Why are you asking this? I submitted the draft, and the league reviewed and revised the rules. Non-water attribute skills can be used, but they must be non-must-hit skills with jet action. Psychic-type telekinesis is not allowed. Using such skills is simply cheating. What about light-based skills? For example, the destruction ray or something like that. Light-based skills are allowed, but destroying the target is not allowed. If it is a destruction ray, the target can only be the rope connecting the target and the conveyor belt. I understand, Xuanjian nodded, with a smile on his face. I think the league must have made some detailed changes to your draft and opened some backdoors for trainers, such as this. Starfish, aim at the bottom of target number 15 and use freezing ray. Compared with skills such as water guns that are affected by gravity, freezing ray is much easier to hit, and the difficulty lies in controlling its power. But for Starfish, this is not a very difficult thing, at least it is much simpler than the compressed water gun. Starfish's gem flickered for a while, and then a thin freezing ray was emitted, accurately hitting the bottom of target number 15. The air humidity in the Orange Alliance was relatively high, and with the moisture brought by the Sea Dragon's water gun just now, an icicle formed under target number 15, increasing the weight of target number 15 and breaking the rope that fixed target number 15. Success! Duoga shouted happily. Just now, she was worried about Xuanjian. Your wonderful ideas are really great. Guo Mei also exclaimed. Xuanjian smiled. He would not tell others that he actually had the intention of breaking the jar. After all, if Hai Xingxing could not control the power of the freezing light, then target number 15 and the conveyor belt would definitely be frozen together, and then no one would think of shooting down target number 15. After the second round, Xuanjian led by 4 points, and the 2 entered the third round, the balloon shooting stage. This round is to compare the shooting speed of the elves of both sides. Only by shooting down as many balloons as possible before the balloons are completely destroyed and fly to a high altitude where they cannot be hit, can more points be obtained. After the 2 were ready, all the hydrogen balloons were immediately released, and Hai Xingxing and Sea Dragon started attacking at the same time. In terms of firing speed, the Sea Thorn Dragon is undoubtedly better. Its slender mouth is like an air gun, which is more suitable for high-speed burst skills. It was seen that it sprayed out powerful water guns, quickly destroying balloons one by one. But the Starfish was not slow either. Although it could not fire water guns as fast as the Sea Thorn Dragon, it could use 5 water guns at the same time, and the speed of destroying balloons was not slower than that of the Sea Thorn Dragon. The water guns fired by both sides were dispersed by the airflow after destroying the balloons, falling like raindrops, forming a circle of rainbows under the sunlight. In the end, all the balloons were destroyed by both sides, and none of them missed. With the end of the third round of the game, the results of both sides were quickly counted. In the last round of the game, Guo Mei was better and destroyed 2 more balloons than Xuanjian, but because Xuanjian hit 1 more target in the second round, the 2 sides finally had the same score. The first round of the shooting competition was a tie. You are very good, you must keep working hard next time. Guo Mei said to Xuanjian. I will, Miss Guo Mei, just wait and see. I will strongly recommend it tomorrow, please support me. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82, Challenging Xuanjian. Special Challenge Round 2 Pokemon Showdown. Both sides use a water attribute Pokemon to fight. The side that loses its combat power later, please send out their Pokémons. Guo Mei's younger brother Ada, as the referee of the second round, said to the two. Thank you for your hard work, Sea Dragon. Guo Mei threw the Pokeball first, and Sea Dragon emerged from the Pokeball and fell into the pool. This is a bit difficult for Xuanjian, Caesar said with some gloating. Xuanjian only has 2 water attribute Pokémons. Gyarados is stronger, but he will have to rely on it in the sea racing competition. If he fights Pokémons, he will inevitably get hurt, and his condition may be affected. But if he uses Starfish, Xuanjian is not sure of winning. If he can't win this round, even if he wins the race, it will only be a tie. The accumulation time is still too short. The elves on hand are not enough. Duoga also nodded and agreed with Caesar's opinion. I said to lend him the Dragonite, but this guy didn't want to. He really wanted to save face and suffered. Otherwise, with Dragonite's strength, it would be very easy to win the sea race. Sea race is basically useless except for the Zyugan Gyakun competition. Is it possible to travel on a Gyarados? Xuanjian also thought of this. After a decision, he finally took out the elf ball. Please, Starfish. Then he opened the elf ball and put Starfish into the pool. Seeing that both sides had chosen the elves, Ada, as the referee, said, both players have determined the elves, then the challenger Xuanjian will attack first. Time preparation, 3, 2, 1, start. Starfish, use Shrink. The opponent is relatively strong. Xuanjian adopted a conservative strategy, did not launch an attack, but first protected himself. Starfish is a mollusk, its body is rich in water and very soft, it can drain the water in its body to shrink its body, so as to reduce the opponent's hit rate. A stream of water came out of Hyazinxing's body, and then 5 tentacles intertwined, shrinking the body to the size of a fist. As soon as Hyazinxing finished the transformation, the opponent's water gun arrived. Xuanjian had experienced the speed and power of Sea Dragon's water gun, but this time, because Hyazinxing suddenly changed his body, the opponent's attack failed. Hyazinxing, sink to the bottom of the water and use the mental wave. Xuanjian ordered. As long as you are in the water, Sea Dragon's water gun will not work. I won't let you succeed, Sea Dragon, use Inkjet. Guo Mei also issued an order. Hearing the trainer's order, Sea Dragon took the attack of the mental wave and spit out a large amount of ink into the water, making the pool water suddenly black. Hyazinxing couldn't stand such water quality, gave up diving, and directly left the water and jumped onto the float. In addition to polluting the pool water, the ink of the sea thorn dragon is also toxic. In the wild, it is often used to drive away those difficult opponents. Most water-based elves cannot tolerate water sources polluted by it, not to mention elves like Starfish that have higher requirements for water quality. Sea Thorn Dragon, Dragon Wave. Water-based skills are not effective against water-based elves, so use dragon-based skills to attack. Starfish, Foam Ray. Xuanjian did not dare to underestimate the opponent's skills and immediately ordered Starfish to attack. Starfish's gems always shine, so for Starfish, light skills are its favorite, even better than water-based skills. Hearing Xuanjian's order, it immediately shot out countless foam-like light balls, and by adjusting the shooting force and angle, it formed a defense circle in front of itself, which it had already done very skillfully. The dragon wave collided with a defense circle formed by the foam ray, and a large number of light balls exploded immediately, but then a large number of light balls were replenished, blocking the attack of the dragon wave. The shock waves from the collision between the two caused the water surface in the pool to fluctuate up and down. Sea Dragon stood steadily in the water, while Starfish relied on suction cups to firmly fix its body on the float, and they were not affected much. Sea Dragon, dive into the water. Guo Mei ordered. Starfish, be careful of it attacking from the water. The water in the pool had long been stained black by the ink sprayed by Sea Dragon, and the visibility was very poor. Starfish on the float could not see the movements of Sea Dragon at all and fell into passive position. In the Hulan Gym competition, Xuanjian used water to cause a lot of trouble to his opponent. The cause and effect turned, and today he finally had a headache. Sea Dragon, use water cannon on the float from below. Guo Mei ordered. The pool water had long been polluted by Sea Dragon. Except for Sea Dragon itself, other Pokémon would feel uncomfortable, especially soft Pokémon like Starfish, which would be completely unbearable and would greatly affect its combat effectiveness. As long as Starfish fell into the water, the overall situation could be said to be settled. Xuanjian also discovered Guo Mei's plan and immediately ordered, "No, Hai Xingxing, jump up and leave the floating board." After receiving the order, Hai Xingxing immediately jumped up. At the same time, a water cannon rushed up from under the floating board and overturned the floating board. The power of the water cannon was too strong. Even with a weakening of the water body, it was easy to overturn a floating board. If Hai Xingxing was still on the floating board, he would definitely fall into the water. Hai Xingxing in the air saw the floating board being overturned, and immediately shot at a water gun, using the recoil to move himself to another floating board. This move is also its signature skill. Good reaction speed, but what are you going to do if I do this? Guo Mei issued an order again. Hai Silan, use the dragon wave attack from under the floating board to destroy the floating board. There are 3 floating boards on the field. With the skills that Hai Xingxing just showed, it is not difficult to switch the floating boards, so it is difficult to have an effect by directly attacking. It is better to directly destroy the floating board. After receiving the order, Hai Silan immediately took action and used the dragon wave from underwater to hit the floating board. The fragile floating board was instantly shattered under the impact of the dragon wave. Since it launched the attack directly from the water, Hai Xingxing had no way to stop it. After destroying 2 floating boards in succession, High Thorn Dragon stopped moving. Using Dragon Wave was also a very laborious task, and it also needed to rest. What should you do? Guo Mei said to Xuanjian, who seemed to be helpless. High Thorn Dragon's attack to destroy the floating board was launched from underwater, and Hai Xingxing was completely unable to stop it. Now there was only 1 floating board left. As long as it was destroyed, it could be said that victory was in hand. Your High Thorn Dragon consumed a lot of physical strength, didn't it? Xuanjian seemed not to be worried about the predicament at the moment, but asked. It consumed some physical strength, Guo Mei admitted readily. High Thorn Dragon usually does some shooting training, and its endurance and physical strength are not very good. Xuanjian nodded. In that case, I'm relieved. Relaxed. Guo Mei didn't quite understand what Xuanjian meant, but didn't delve into it, and turned her attention back to the battle. High Thorn Dragon, destroy the last floating board. Strong push at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, during the strong promotion period, if the number of recommendations per day reaches 200, an extra chapter will be added. Chapter 83, Challenging Xuanjian. As long as this floating board is destroyed, the situation will be settled. Thinking of this, Guo Mei couldn't help but clench her fists. Xuanjian on the other side seemed to be stumped, staring at the floating board under Hai Xingxing closely, without giving any effective instructions. The enemy couldn't attack him, so the sea dragon came to the bottom of the floating board unscrupulously, accumulated power, and fired. A powerful dragon wave sprayed out of its mouth, breaking through the water and shooting at the floating board. Under the impact of the dragon wave, the floating board soon shattered. Hai Xingxing, use the freezing ray below. Xuanjian finally issued an order at the moment when the dragon wave broke the floating board. Hai Xingxing had accumulated power for a long time. When she heard Xuanjian's order, she immediately shot a thick freezing ray from the gemstone and shot it at the sea dragon in the water. Under normal circumstances, it would be almost impossible to use the freezing ray to attack the sea dragon hiding in the water, because the water would freeze rapidly under the effect of the freezing ray, absorbing its power completely. With the strength of Hai Xingxing, it was not possible to freeze the entire venue in such a domineering way. However, because the dragon wave of the sea thorn dragon broke through the water and exposed it directly to the air, the freezing ray took the opportunity to accurately hit the opponent. Sea thorn dragon, Guo Mei shouted worriedly. In her imagination, Hai Xingxing would at most use the freezing ray to form an ice block to land. She never expected Hai Xingxing to take this opportunity to attack despite being injured and falling into the water. The freezing ray hit the sea thorn dragon and immediately caused it to freeze. Together with the nearby pool water, a large concave ice block was formed, which floated out of the water and caught Xuanjian, who was about to fall into the water. But the ice block was too cold and too smooth. Xuanjian was not as comfortable and stable as staying on the floating board. This was one of the reasons why Xuanjian did not choose to use the freezing ray to create an ice block for Xuanjian to land. On the other hand, it was naturally because it was too physically demanding. Xuanjian, mental wave attack. Other elves might find it difficult to attack because of the obstruction of the ice layer, but Xuanjian, who had psychic skills, was not one of them. As long as the frequency of the mental wave is controlled, the attack can be carried out without destroying the ice. Looking at the frozen sea thorn dragon, Xuanjian said, "I miscalculated and misjudged your tactics. This is a serious mistake for a shooter." She originally thought that the opponent would construct ice blocks to continue to defend and drag down the sea thorn dragon, whose physical strength and endurance were not outstanding. Unexpectedly, the opponent dared to take a risk. Your sea thorn dragon has poor physical strength and endurance, but my sea star is not much better. Only by taking a risk can we have a hope of winning. After all, the gap between the two in terms of level and race value is huge. If it drags on, the first to collapse may be the sea star. Attacking at the moment when the opponent uses the dragon wave, although you will also suffer serious damage, you can at least see a glimmer of victory. But I will not give up easily. Sea thorn dragon, use dragon wave. We too, sea star, use freezing ray. The dragon wave emitted by the sea thorn dragon broke the ice and collided with a freezing ray of sea star. The two collided and produced a violent explosion. The impact of the explosion lifted the pool water high up, and then spilled it down. After the wind and waves calmed down, the situation in the field appeared in everyone's eyes. The ice condensed by the freezing light was shattered, and the sea dragon fell on the water. After losing its fighting power, the gem of the sea star flashed rapidly, indicating that its physical strength had reached the bottom, but it did not lose its fighting power after all. The sea star won this battle. It was a close call. Xuanjian wiped the sweat from his forehead. The collision just now was really thrilling. If it hadn't been closer to the sea dragon when the two energies collided, the aftermath of the explosion would have caused a lot of damage to the sea dragon, and it might not be the sea dragon that lost its fighting power. The second game, the elf duel, Xuanjian won. Ada, the referee, announced. "Congratulations, keep working hard next time," Xuanjian said gracefully. Next, the group came to the beach by the sea and prepared for the sea race. The rules are very simple. Both sides start riding their Pokémon from here at the same time, and return after reaching the benchmark over there. The one who finishes first wins. It is forbidden to use skills to attack each other during the game, but collisions between Pokémon bodies are allowed. Xuanjian introduced the rules of the third game, and then took out a Pokéball, come out, Blastoise. As the final evolution of Squirtle, one of the three great Pokémons in Kanto, Blastoise has a strong body and a broad back, and is also a very suitable water Pokémon to ride. Come out, Gyarados. Xuanjian also called out the Pokémon he was going to ride. Gyarados. Xuanjian looked at the behemoth that appeared on the field with some surprise. Gyarados is not very suitable for riding. This is the first time I have seen someone use Gyarados to compete with me. But you gave me a lot of surprises in the last two games, and I can't help but look forward to your next performance. No. Xuanjian smiled helplessly. If he didn't have a Pokémon that he could show off, why would he use Gyarados to compete? Surfing requires intense exercise, so the clothes on the body are naturally not suitable. Naturally, the two of them changed into swimming outfits. Xuanjian's curvy figure in a swimsuit was clearly on display, and Caesar couldn't take his eyes off her. Even Duogi, who was staring at him with a murderous look, couldn't stop him. Both contestants, please get ready. Following Ada's order, Xuanjian and Xuanjian boarded Gyarados and Blastoise respectively and came to the starting line. Ready, go. Following Ada's order, both parties rushed out of the starting line. However, the methods they adopted were different. Blastoise used the traditional method. After entering the water, it paddled quickly with its limbs and swam towards the target. Relatively speaking, the method used by Gyarados was much more intense. Gyarados arched its body, then swung its tail vigorously, and catapulted out from the beach. Although it was very large, Gyarados had a very good jumping ability. Although we can't fly, We at least have a flying attribute, so we have to be light and flexible. Gyarados' unexpected start was designed by Xuanjian based on the start movements of swimmers in his previous life. In order to adapt to this intense start, Xuanjian suffered a lot in class. He fell down many times during practice because he couldn't hold Gyarados' body. Even with the seawater as a buffer, he was bruised all over. However, the hard work finally paid off. Gyarados, who started in an unexpected way, instantly took the lead by a long distance. Sorry, I was a little late. Chapter 84, Challenging Xuanjian. Gyarados had an advantage at the start with its excellent jumping ability, which Guo had not expected. The two competed in a bay on Xuanjian Island. It seemed that there were not many winds and waves here, but in fact it was a meeting point of multiple ocean currents. Although the route of the competition was not specified, it actually existed. Because only on that route can the power of the ocean current be used. If you deviate from this route, you will be hindered by the ocean current and spend more effort. Xuanjian and Gyarados already had some sailing experience, and they discovered this immediately after entering the water. So they gave up the plan of rushing to the benchmark in a straight line and then returning, and instead followed the strongest ocean current. It turned out that Xuanjian's choice was very correct. Because it was in the ocean current, Gyarados swam very easily, and within sight, Xuanjian found whirlpools caused by the collision of several small ocean currents. If it were not for the protection of the ocean current, Gyarados would inevitably be weakened by these turbulence and whirlpools, and spend more effort. Guo is much more familiar with the sea area than Xuanjian. With her familiarity with the ocean currents, Guo directed Blastoise to change the ocean currents many times like a car changing lanes, and took a shortcut to catch up with Xuanjian. However, Xuanjian noticed that it was not so easy for Blastoise to enter and escape the ocean currents many times, and Blastoise was a little tired with its strong physical strength. After entering the ocean current where Xuanjian was, Guo did not change lanes again, but drove Blastoise to follow Xuanjian closely, also using the power of the ocean current to move forward, while letting Blastoise recover his physical strength. Well done, I didn't expect you to find the mystery so quickly. Guo praised. This section of the road was relatively flat, and she had no intention of overtaking Gyarados immediately, so she started chatting with Xuanjian. Actually, the special challenge is more interesting because the trainers are all quite good. When taking part in the normal challenge, I feel like a nanny. I have to follow those rookies into the turbulent area to prevent them from getting into trouble. In the end, I have to pretend to overtake them and bring them back to the correct ocean current, and then decide whether to let them go based on their performance. So that's how it is. Xuanjian nodded. I was wondering why many sailing novices can easily win the race. It turns out it's because you let them go. It's not all because of me letting them go, Guo said. Most Pokemon that are suitable for sailing have an innate talent for sailing. They can make accurate judgments and choose the right path. As long as you choose the right Pokemon and the trainer doesn't make things worse, they generally perform well. But Pokemon like Gyarados don't have the talent to judge ocean currents, so it will be more difficult for you to ride it. Have you received any training in this area? Xuanjian nodded. Well, since I decided to challenge the Xuanjian gym, I have been riding Gyarados all the way here, and I have accumulated some experience. But I am still far behind you. He couldn't do the same as he just did, commanding Blastoise to take shortcuts by constantly switching ocean currents. I am too familiar with this area of water. I can recognize the size and direction of the ocean currents with my eyes closed. You definitely can't do that. Guo said modestly, but you are already very good. It's rare for me to meet such a knowledgeable opponent. I want to have a good time today. Miss Guo, please show mercy. With a level that the other party just showed, he obviously couldn't beat the other party. It's okay, I'll give you some water at the end. Guo said, you know, in fact, this sea racing project actually comes from the ancient sea knights. Each of them is a superb navigator, driving the water spirits on the sea freely. Unfortunately, with the continuous development of technology, ships with better load carrying and stability replaced the spirits, and this profession eventually disappeared. So that's how it is. Then, let me show you the style of the sea knights. Guo's expression suddenly became serious. Blues, overtake. After hearing the order, Blastoise, who had recovered some of his physical strength, immediately accelerated and caught up with Gyarados with an indomitable momentum. Gyarados also accelerated immediately to prevent Blastoise from overtaking, and the two sides immediately ran side by side. Friendly reminder, the channel ahead will become narrower. Xuanjian looked carefully and found that different ocean currents had subtle differences in water quality and color, not to mention the creatures in them. Xuanjian superimposed his perception on his vision, and it was easy for him to distinguish the many ocean currents according to the types and numbers of creatures in the ocean currents. In front of him, many ocean currents collided. Although the ocean current they were in was very strong, it was weakened a lot by the impact of other ocean currents, and it was almost half as thin as before. For the two people who relied on this ocean current to move forward, it was the narrowing of the channel, as Guo Mei said. There is no doubt that in this situation, it will no longer be possible to run side by side, and the two will have to separate one into the first and the second. The channel gradually narrowed, and the two Pokémon got closer and closer, and their bodies collided suddenly. Although Gyarados is larger, Blastoise's body is undoubtedly harder, and its round body is more stable in the water, so after a collision, it defeated Gyarados and entered the narrowing ocean current first. Xuanjian could only follow her. After swimming for a while, the two of them were close to the return point. However, this was also a large intersection of ocean currents, with various ocean currents mixed together. The ocean current they were in before also turned to another direction. If they wanted to get close to the pole, they had to force their way through the area where various ocean currents converged and collided. "Look, this is the sea knight." Miss Guo Mei turned around and said to Xuanjian on Gyarados, and then said to Blastoise, "Blastoise, use surf." As the order was issued, a wave surged up from underwater, lifting Blastoise's heavy body up from the water. Compared with using it on land, the effect of using this move in water is undoubtedly more amazing. The waves did not end after lifting up Blastoise. Guo Mei manipulated Blastoise to use the power of the waves to leave the previous ocean current and fall into a new ocean current. Then she used surf again. Under Guo Mei's exquisite control, the surf skill borrowed power from multiple ocean currents to form a new ocean current, which carried Blastoise and accelerated continuously, easily passing through this area full of whirlpools and turbulence, and finally quickly reached the benchmark position, and then began to return. The turbulent area that originally required a lot of time and physical strength to pass through was like flat ground, with the cooperation of Guo Mei and Blastoise. After seeing Guo Mei's exquisite operation, Xuanjian's blood was also ignited, and all distractions were thrown behind his mind. He only wanted to win, so he shouted to Gyarados, "We can't lose either, Gyarados, we also use surf." Gyarados swung its tail and set off a huge wave. With its and Xuanjian's experience, it is not enough to use the water flow as exquisitely as Guo Mei and Blastoise, but it also has its own way. Carried by the huge waves it created, Gyarados soared into the air, directly skipped over the turbulent area, and landed near the benchmark. This violent and barbaric method is certainly not as exquisite as Guo Mei's technique, but it is also very effective. However, the trainer will have to suffer some hardships. At the moment when Gyarados fell from the air, its body broke through the sea surface, stirring up a lot of water splashes, which made Xuanjian grin. Then, under the action of inertia, Gyarados plunged into the sea water. Fortunately, Xuanjian was prepared for this, otherwise he would have choked on a mouthful of water. Seeing that Xuanjian easily passed the turbulent area, Guo Mei turned back and gave it a thumbs up, and then continued to control Blastoise to move forward. However, Xuanjian found that the opponent's speed slowed down a lot. Although there was an obstruction from the ocean current on the return journey, the opponent must have also let up. "Gyarados, we don't want the opponent to let up, right?" Xuanjian asked, touching Gyarados' horn. Gyarados roared in his throat, agreeing with Xuanjian's statement. How could the proud Gyarados tolerate his opponent letting him win? Besides, the race just now made him feel like his whole body was on fire. This feeling of galloping freely on the sea was so good and in line with his personality. "Then, let's use the tactic," Xuanjian said. Gyarados made a cry to show that he understood, and then took Xuanjian into the sea and disappeared on the sea. Hey, what are they going to do? Such a question popped up in the minds of the people watching the battle with binoculars on the beach. The answer was soon revealed. Gyarados rushed out of the sea with the buoyancy generated by diving, and when it approached the water surface, it activated the surfing skill, pushed its body into the air, and then flew forward for a while before falling into the sea again, and dived again with the power of falling, and then rushed out of the sea again, repeating the previous process. From a distance, it looked like a dolphin that was constantly jumping forward. In this way, the obstruction of the reverse ocean current to it was minimized. Gyarados kept speeding up, and in a blink of an eye, he caught up with Blastoise. "You actually have such a trick up your sleeve," Guo-mei said in surprise as she looked at Xuanjian who passed by her. This opponent was so satisfying. "Then Blastoise, we don't have to show mercy. Next, use the water jet." Upon hearing the trainer's order, Blastoise immediately retracted its body into its shell, and then a stream of water surrounded its body, lifting it out of the water, and then rushed straight to the finish line like a bullet. After Blastoise activated its skills, it moved forward along the sea surface like an air cushion boat. The high speed caused severe wind pressure to push away the waves in front. This way of moving forward means that it has completely focused its energy on moving forward and accelerating, and all judgments are left to the trainer. It would be great if ordinary trainers could stand firmly at such a high speed without losing their legs, but Guo-mei stood steadily on the back of Blastoise and issued accurate instructions to help Blastoise adjust its direction. She is worthy of being a sea knight. These two are too crazy. Caesar watched the two people rushing to the finish line, and couldn't help but smack his lips. Both methods are very dangerous, and if you are not careful, you may lose your life. Duoga smiled faintly and said nothing. For Caesar, who is a descendant of aristocracy, although he has suffered a lot, he still lacks the fighting spirit of the lower-class elites. "This is the first time I've seen my sister do this. It's so cool," Ada exclaimed. Guo-mei and Blastoise, who used water jets, caught up with Gyarados again. At this time, they were less than 100 meters away from the finish line, and both sides entered the final sprint. Gyarados, use leap after surfing, Xuanjian ordered when he broke through the sea again. These are the only two flying skills that Gyarados can learn, and now they are finally useful. Gyarados roared, and after using surfing to lift his body, he swung his tail, threw out a ball of wind, and accelerated forward again under the influence of the wind, flying from the air to the finish line. "Oh my god, are you planning to fly over here directly?" Ada was also frightened by Xuanjian's action, while Caesar was so surprised that he couldn't speak. Only Duoga clenched his fists in worry and bit his lips tightly. Seeing the actions of Xuanjian and Gyarados, Guo-mei also ordered, "Blues, speed up again." Following Guo-mei's order, the water cannon on the back of Blastoise stretched out to help Guo-mei stabilize her body, and then shot a powerful water cannon from the tail, using the thrust of the water cannon to increase the speed again. The wind pressure of the advance broke the sea surface and stirred up a row of water waves. The two of them exerted their extreme high speed in different ways and made a final sprint towards the finish line. Seeing the two gradually approaching the coast, but not slowing down at all, Ada woke up from the shock and shouted, "No, my sister is having a lot of fun, get ready for rescue." The finish line was set in a shallow beach very close to the coast. With the performance of the two, they would definitely rush to the shore. Ada ran to the side and cleared the obstacles near the finish line, giving Blastoise and Guo-mei enough space to slow down, and began to arrange some protective devices. "Come out, Butterfree." Before Xuanjian participated in the competition, Butterfree had been given to Duoji for temporary custody. In addition, Duoji was very familiar with the Pokémons, so it was not a problem to use the Pokémons for the time being. "Butterfree, Xuanjian and Gyarados are flying over from the sky. You will use your telekinesis to slow down their speed as much as possible and let them land smoothly." Butterfree looked at Xuanjian and Gyarados flying in the air and nodded to show that he understood. Without waiting for everyone to make more preparations, the two had already rushed over at a very high speed, one from the sky and the other from the ground. Both sides crossed the finish line at a very high speed. Blues, water cannon to slow down. Gyarados, storm to assist landing. After crossing the finish line, the trainers on both sides also knew that they were in a dangerous situation, and they took countermeasures to start slowing down. Blastoise's head and limbs stretched out from the shell again, and landed on all fours. At the same time, water cannons were fired from its mouth and back to slow down its own speed with the help of recoil. Gyarados also roared, and a downward wave of air blew around it, slowing down its descent. Butterfree also sent out telekinesis to help Xuanjian and Gyarados further reduce their speed. However, the speed of the two people's sprint was too fast. Even though both sides took effective measures to reduce their speed a lot, the speed was still relatively fast. I saw Blastoise rushing directly onto the beach, and it set off a shower of sand on the beach, leaving a deep indentation, sliding for a long distance before stopping, and Guo-mei flew off the back of Blastoise due to inertia. Fortunately, Ada had the foresight to prepare a block. Gyarados hit the beach heavily, smashing a big hole, and then fainted directly. Xuanjian could no longer hold Gyarados' body under the violent vibration, and was thrown away. Fortunately, Butterfree was quick-eyed and quick-handed with telekinesis to assist, so he was not injured. I feel like I can't stop writing. A 4,000-word chapter, can it be counted as 2 chapters? Please recommend. 200 recommendations for extra chapters. Come on. Chapter 85 Sakura Badge, Update. I'm so sorry that you got hurt because of me, Xuanjian said to Guo-mei in front of the Zyuan gym. At this time, Guo-mei's right hand was in a splint, hanging on her neck. During the competition yesterday, both of them lost their minds a little in the final C race, and burst out at the maximum speed without regard for the consequences in order to win. As a result, both sides suffered a lot of injuries. Xuanjian's Gyarados was seriously injured. According to Joey, although Gyarados has the flying attribute, it cannot be used as a flying Pokémon. If the beach soil was not soft, Gyarados would have broken all the bones in his body. Guo-mei's Blastoise was fine, but Guo-mei herself was thrown out. Although she was caught by the protective net, her arm was severely sprained when she fell. It's okay, Guo-mei laughed heartily. Yesterday's competition was really fun. I've never surfed at such a high speed before. I still don't practice enough. It is said that the ancient sea knights could land smoothly no matter how fast they were going. Xuanjian smiled and said, I think that if the finish line is set on the sea, the possibility of injury will be reduced. After all, it will be better to have water as a buffer. That makes sense, Guo-mei nodded. Usually ordinary challenges are far less intense. I can easily control this situation. Even some special challenges are mostly focused on the first and second rounds, so I didn't think so much. By the way, Ada, bring the things here. Ada came over from the side with a plate on it. There was a badge and 2 skill machines on it. This was the prize Xuanjian got in this challenge. Guo-mei first picked up the badge and handed it to Xuanjian. This is the Sakura badge of Xuanjian Gym, which means that your strength has been recognized by Xuanjian Gym. Xuanjian took the Sakura badge, and then Guo-mei picked up 2 skill machines and handed them to Xuanjian. This is the reward for the special challenge, which are the skill learning machines for praying for rain and water jet. Ms. Guo-mei, thank you very much, Xuanjian said sincerely. Few elves can learn the 2 skills of praying for rain and water jet by themselves, and most of them need the help of skill machines, so these 2 skill machines are very precious. The stipulated reward is only 2 skill machines. If the other party wants to perfunctory himself, then it is okay to give 2 at random, but Guo-mei obviously did not do so. Instead, she carefully selected and gave 2 extremely valuable skill machines. You're welcome. I should thank you for giving me such an unforgettable match. Guo-mei raised her injured hand. Although I got a minor injury, it should heal soon. And this is a work injury, so I can take this opportunity to close the gym and have a good vacation. Really, there are not many people coming to challenge in this off-season, but the league still requires the gym to be open all day. It's really boring. Everyone. After bidding farewell to Guo-mei's siblings, Xuanjian and the other 2 set out on the road again, ending the challenge of the Zyuan gym. Xuanjian naturally didn't need to train along the way on Gyarados, so he returned to the back of the dragon again. After all, it was more comfortable to sit on the dragon, and Gyarados still needed to recuperate. With one more person, I feel that the dragon's back is too crowded. Caesar complained. The extra guy seems to be you. Xuanjian hit back unceremoniously. But I paid for everyone's travel expenses. Caesar would not admit that he was the extra person, and turned to attack Xuanjian's weak spot. But you are the biggest. Except for you, they are all boys and girls who have just started to develop, so no matter how you calculate the size, they are not as big as you. Xuanjian would never discuss such a boring issue as travel expenses with him. So the 2 of them started to argue with each other, and finally it was Queen Duoga who calmed down the argument. Both of you shut up. Then the world was finally quiet. With your elf lineup, you can't challenge the Yuzu gym without a grass-type elf, and the Dugan gym is too far away, so you can only challenge the Napuri gym. Caesar said to Xuanjian. Xuanjian nodded and agreed with him. Let's discuss the next Napuri gym to challenge. Duoga turned the topic to a more normal direction. Napuri gym, Caesar said pretentiously, I know something about it. Tisk, isn't it just a special way of challenging? Mountain climbing, freezing fountains, making ice boat skiing. What crowns are you selling? Xuanjian said. These are the normal challenges, but do you want to know how to do the special challenges? What? Mountain climbing, freezing fountains, making ice boats, and ice boat skiing. Are you kidding me? How is this different from a normal challenge? Yes, Caesar stopped bragging and said, mountain climbing requires weight carrying, and the height is also higher than normal. The frozen fountain is located in the hot spring at the top of the snow mountain, where the temperature is very high, and ice elves can't stand it staying there, let alone using skills. Most water elves also find it difficult to adapt to the sulfur-filled air there. The rest is no different from normal ones. However, unlike normal challenges, the 4 items are timed together, with no pause in between, and the first person to finish wins. After a pause, Caesar continued, with your physical strength, mountain climbing is not a problem, but the freezing fountain that follows will be a bit troublesome. Well, Xuanjian nodded. The elves most suitable for using freezing rays are undoubtedly water and ice, but based on the information provided by Caesar, it seems that they have to find an elf that can adapt to such extreme environments. After thinking for a while, Xuanjian said, let's take a look first. If it doesn't work, we can just do a normal challenge. Before the challenge, I want to find a place to improve the level of the Pokémon. It would be best if I can help Starfish and Scyther evolve. Starfish needs more battles to improve, which is easy. Duoga said, the evolution of Scyther is a bit troublesome. Metal coating has always been a scarce item and hard to find. And the evolution of your Scyther should require some special preparations, right? Yes. Xuanjian nodded. Scyther's double sickles are a little deformed and need to be adjusted when reshaping the body during evolution. In this case, more preparations are needed. Let's slowly rush to the Napier gym. I'm also making some preparations on the way. The Rocket's database is open to him. Compared with the League's database, the content may not be comprehensive, but it contains a large amount of data on experiments banned by the League or information that is prohibited from dissemination. These experimental data and information are of great help to him. Next, he will carefully check it out and find something that can help him. Then let's go to Napier Island first. If there are more prosperous islands along the way, we will stop and look for a place where we can fight. Duoga made a decision. This decision was made for himself, and Xuanjian certainly had no objection. Caesar completely followed Duoga's opinion and naturally would not object. The group headed for Napier. Thanks to you, I soon for the reward. Chapter 86, Error or Historical Fact. After making the decision, the group set off towards their goal. On the back of the dragon, the 3 began to do their own things. Xuanjian began to read the information downloaded from the Rocket's database, hoping to gain something from it. Compared with the orthodox and rigid information of the Alliance, the Rocket's information is completely of another style. It is full of all kinds of crazy conjectures and experiments, all of which opened Xuanjian's eyes. Hey, Xuanjian was browsing an article about Scyther, and suddenly found something wrong in the information. Duoga, do you remember what year the metal coating was developed? Duoga's memory is abnormal, and she can remember almost everything she sees. This is also the reason why she dares to call herself a genius girl. Although she has not read as many documents as Xuanjian, she remembers things that Xuanjian can't catch up with. Metal coating. Hearing Xuanjian's question, Duoga also came back to his senses from a reading book. After thinking for a while, he answered, metal coating was discovered 14 years ago, that is, in the 85th year of the Alliance calendar. The discoverer was an elf collector. The discovery experience was, a swindler bought a bucket of paint from a paint store, painted Scyther in other colors, and then sold it to the collector as a shiny elf. As a result, after the elf exchange, Scyther evolved into Giant Mantis. The evolution of Scyther's Giant Mantis was discovered from then on, and according to the formula of the bucket of paint, people finally discovered the metal coating. Duoga said what he knew as if he was reciting it. So there was no Giant Mantis before. I think so. Duoga said uncertainly. Human activities have had a great impact on elves, resulting in the emergence of many new evolutionary forms of elves. Giant Mantis has never been found in nature, and since the discovery of Giant Mantis, no new evolutionary methods have been discovered. Xuanjian frowned and handed the information in his hand to Duoga. Take a look at this. Duoga took the information and read it. Caesar also leaned over to read curiously, and after a while he looked up. I know what each word means, but I don't know what it means when they are put together. Then he gave up and stayed aside to watch the fun. Unlike Caesar, Duoga quickly finished reading the information and said to himself, a mule of a giant mantis was found in the ruins more than 1,000 years ago, and the carapace left after the giant mantis died. The carapace of the giant mantis is a metal crystal. This material is not sensitive to other environments except for being intolerant to high temperatures. There is no problem in preserving it for more than 1,000 years. But the metal coating was obviously discovered not long ago, and without the spirit exchanger, how can it help the Scyther evolve? Seeing Duoga finished reading the information, Xuanjian said, do you think this article might be fake? I thought so at first. But think about it, the altar we saw before was made of metal crystals, so it is not impossible that there was such a thing as metal coating in ancient times. But, Duoga said hesitantly, there shouldn't be elf switches in ancient times. Xuanjian shook his head. The so-called communication is only because the radio waves generated by the machine during the elf exchange process stimulate the elf's body, catalyzing and accelerating the process of evolution. If other conditions can also catalyze this process, then evolution must also occur. But why was there no record of it before? Duoga said unconvinced. Maybe it was lost. Xuanjian guessed, and then said, just like the sea and sky abyss, this place has no record in the Alliance data. But your family has discovered it long ago, and even lost its record again in the passage of time. If it weren't for you, I don't know how long it would take for this place to be rediscovered. The giant claw mantis is a very powerful evolutionary type, which is only restrained by fire attribute elves, but most areas in this world lack fire elves. In Kanto, the outstanding fire type Pokémon such as Growlithe and Charmander are artificially cultivated and are almost impossible to find in the natural environment. The forces or families that have mastered the evolution method of Scyther will definitely not easily contribute it, but collect it as a family heritage. When this family or force declines and perishes, the evolution method is likely to be completely lost. Of course, it is not ruled out that the peculiar nature has formed a special environment in some places that can allow Scyther to successfully evolve. For example, the final evolution of Geodude, Raiden, also requires communication evolution, but there are many Raidens in nature. Scientists have found that after Raiden eats stones rich in certain metal minerals, it will produce fluctuations that can promote its evolution when polishing its body, helping it to complete its evolution. However, scientists have not yet found a naturally evolved Scyther in nature. Hey, what's the point of you discussing these things? Caesar, who was left aside for a long time, asked. He really couldn't stand the two people ignoring him, as if he was redundant. The evolution of Scyther now is completed with the help of the spirit switch, and it is difficult for people to influence it. My Scyther is a little deformed, and I want to help it correct this during evolution, so I have to find a convenient way to interfere with its evolution to help it complete its evolution. Xuanjian answered patiently. Many spirits have various defects and disabilities before evolution, but as long as they are assisted and interfered during evolution, they can get completely normal spirits. There are many successful cases to follow. What does it have to do with when the evolution method of Scyther was discovered? Caesar still didn't understand. Now the evolution of Scythe is assisted by the elf switch, and the elf switch is obviously only available in recent years. But if there have been cases of Scythe evolving under other conditions before, it means that there is a way to evolve without relying on the elf switch. As long as I find this way, I can help Scythe correct its deformed sickle when it evolves. I see. Caesar nodded. Then why don't you just ask the person who discovered the ancient giant mantis? Maybe he has found something in the ruins. Why do you have to figure out whether giant mantises existed in the past? Well, that makes sense. Duoga and Xuanjian looked at each other and found that the two of them were really stuck in a dead end and completely forgot their original purpose. Let me see whose paper this is. Duoga looked through the information. After reading it once, he said to Xuanjian in surprise, "It's strange that such an important discovery is not signed. And this article looks weird. It doesn't look like a formal paper at all. It seems to be a record written by a guy who is taking a wild path. There are strict requirements for the expression and format of the paper. Even for most scientists, even the draft will be recorded carefully, because no one can say when they will find inspiration and discovery from it. Only those who take a wild path will write whatever they think of. Come on, everyone, 200 votes and more. Chapter 87 Invitation. Xuanjian secretly wiped his sweat. These data came from Team Rocket. These guys wanted to create elves that could help them overthrow the Alliance, so they must have visited many ancient tombs and ruins. This discovery might be a discovery made during their operation. However, except for the scientists, most of the people in Team Rocket were not well educated and did not realize the value of this discovery. So they just made a hasty record and threw it into the database. As a result, no one found it. Finally, he accidentally found it. His and Team Rocket's concerns must not be exposed. In the end, Xuanjian made up a reason. This is the information given to me by a friend of mine. He is an explorer. He probably didn't realize the value of this thing. Duoga nodded, without asking more questions, and didn't know if he believed it. But Caesar pointed out the loophole in Xuanjian's words without hesitation. Your friend is really amazing. He explored 4 or 5 ruins in a month, and they were all not discovered by the Alliance. He pointed to the date marked on the data. The dates of the records in different places were less than a month apart, and the scale of the ruins explored was not small. This was really not something that one person could explore. Duoga also looked at Xuanjian mischievously, waiting for his explanation. Well, maybe they are from the same association. Xuanjian said awkwardly, I'm not sure either, let me ask him. Caesar looked at Xuanjian meaningfully and did not continue to ask. It seems that none of the people in this group are easy to deal with. Duoga listened to Xuanjian's explanation, smiled, and as usual did not delve into it. He returned the information to Xuanjian and continued to study the breeding book. After seeing that he had fooled around, Xuanjian breathed a sigh of relief and began to think about contacting Xiaobo. These materials came from Team Rocket, and he had obtained extremely high authority with Sakuki's permission. Except for the content involving the core secrets of Team Rocket, he had the authority to browse. He could find out the specific location of the ruins mentioned in the information, but if he explored and studied it by himself, he didn't know when he would reach a conclusion. If I have achieved a certain status and my strength has reached a bottleneck, then it is no problem to devote myself to research. However, I have just started. What I need is to improve myself quickly, rather than investing all my time and energy in one thing. If I want to get results quickly, then inviting others to study together is undoubtedly the best way, and Xiaobo is undoubtedly a good candidate. After several contacts, Xiaobo gave me a very good feeling. Although he felt a little like a mad scientist, as long as his research did not harm me and had no conflict of interest with me, it would not have much impact on me. Moreover, as a senior executive of the Rockets, Xiaobo had funds, technology, and manpower, which Xuanjian lacked. At the same time, he was also an outstanding scientist. This was an ideal research partner. Thinking of this, Xuanjian decided to contact Xiaobo after landing, tell him about his discovery, and invite him to study together. I believe he would be very happy. Since there was no need to rush, the three of them chose those islands with better scenery and more prosperous as the terminal station for each day, so that they could enjoy the scenery and taste the various local specialties. Jingan Island is such a small island, so the three chose Jingan Island as the focus of today. Since Caesar joined, everyone's living standards have risen sharply, and basically they rarely live in the Elf Center. Today is the same. Caesar chose a 5-star hotel and opened a single room for each person. Does anyone want to go shopping together? Duogi asked. If there's anything that can save her from the world of breeding books, it is shopping. I still have a lot of information to read. Excuse me first. Hearing Duogi's words, Xuanjian immediately found an excuse and left decisively. This guy. Duogi looked at Xuanjian, who slipped away with some annoyance, and turned his target to Caesar. I'm a little tired today, so I won't accompany you. How about tomorrow? Caesar unexpectedly refused Duogi. He had always accompanied him to the end when there was such a thing before. No one is going with me. Duoga said, shaking his hair and leaving a beautiful back. Caesar touched his nose a little embarrassedly, and returned to his room with an awkward smile, but the moment he closed the door, his face became extremely serious. The room in a 5-star hotel is definitely worth its price. Not to mention the complete furniture and equipment, its glass is specially made. People inside can clearly enjoy the scenery outside, but outsiders can't see inside clearly. However, Caesar still drew the curtains and said, "Come out." Then 2 people appeared in the room like ghosts. Both of them wore masks and wrapped their bodies tightly in black clothes. There was a big number written on their chests, which looked very strange. Number 2, Number 7, what are you doing here? Caesar asked. These two are shadow guards who are loyal to the family. Their status in the family is not much lower than his own. The two shadow guards saluted, and number 2 said, of course, I am here to remind you not to forget your mission, young master. Although he called him young master, there was no respect in his tone. There was no way. 4 Caesars had ascended to the position of heir before, but they failed in the end. Before he really took over the power from the current head of the family, it was really difficult for an old man like him to be an heir. Am I not completing my mission? Caesar said angrily. Master, the family has already fully implemented the hero saves the beauty plan, but your performance has disappointed the master. The master said that if you fail again this time, you don't have to go back. Number 2 said neither humbly nor arrogantly, and at the same time he complained in his mind, no matter how well the script is written, there is nothing you can do if the actors are not good. Whose hero can't even beat a beautiful woman, and ended up being thrown into the sea by the beautiful woman's guards as a burden. If it weren't for the good luck of this person in front of him, there might have been a new Caesar in the castle. Hearing this, Caesar became even more angry. Can you blame me for this? The power of the dragon makes my own strength comparable to that of the elves, but it is also difficult for the elves to accept it. If they can find a more suitable candidate, let them come. So far, he can only use Eevee and cannot expose his dragon power. With this kind of strength, how can he gain the trust of the Sea Witch? Ahem, number 2 obviously knew that what Caesar said was true, so he gave up arguing with Caesar and said, the head of the family also knows your difficulties, so he went against all odds to keep your position. But the people in the clan can't understand what you are doing now. Humph, Caesar's face looked better, and then he said, what do these guys know? I have made a huge discovery, and for this reason I have formulated a plan that is countless times better than hero saving the beauty. As long as it succeeds, it will be a one-time thing. Forgive me, I was having too much fun with my friends and forgot to post. Chapter 88 Purpose. Oh, I wonder what great discovery you have made, young master. Number 2 asked curiously, and number 7, who had been silent, also looked over. I found a bloodline of a sea witch that was lost and a natural sea witch. Caesar said proudly. Really? Number 2 said in disbelief. This news is too important for the family. Many years ago, the family was driven out of the hometown of dragons and wandered around, but after all, they were nobles for several generations, and their background was extraordinary. The family soon found a new place to stay, the sand castle at the junction of Unova and Hone. This is the land that the family bought when it was glorious. At that time, the land here was fertile and the population was dense, but with a change of climate and the passage of time, it is now a large desert with sparse population and is not suitable as the family's new territory. At first, the family only thought of using it as a temporary place to stay, but the discovery in the sand castle changed their minds. In the basement of the sand castle, the family found an ancient mural recording the history of this land. This land was originally a desert. The people living here had a very hard life. In order to help people, the ancient wizards developed a way to change this land. Let a sea witch summon the power of Kyogre to change the rainfall in this place. Through this method, this place received abundant rain and became a fertile land, and this land prospered. According to the records of the murals, the wizards used this to maintain the prosperity of this land for countless years until they could no longer find a sea witch to perform the ceremony. Since then, this land has gradually declined, and it is for this reason that the family can buy such a large piece of territory, turning a desert into fertile land again. What a tempting idea! If successful, then they will undoubtedly become the owner of this land. However, this idea is not easy to implement, because now there are only sea witches in the Whirlpool Islands in the whole world. The so-called sea witches, in ancient times, refer to those women who are responsible for communicating and worshipping the sea god Kyogre. Due to the long-term worship of the sea god, they are infected by the power of the sea god and blessed by Kyogre. They have incredible power and can summon the power of Kyogre through specific rituals. Once upon a time, sea maidens were not rare, but when many mythical beasts gradually fell asleep for unknown reasons, this kind of sacrifice could no longer be responded to, so this profession gradually declined. Today, only the Whirlpool Islands still retain such sacrifices. Sea maidens have become exclusive to the Whirlpool Islands. The sea god Kyogre is asleep. Even with the unique environment and huge altar of the Whirlpool Islands, they can only collect the power that Kyogre accidentally scattered, so that even the Whirlpool Islands can only give birth to 1 or 2 sea maidens to ensure the continuity of inheritance. So once someone awakens the power of the sea god and becomes a sea maiden, she will automatically gain the highest status and power in the Whirlpool Islands. However, in contrast, she will also lose something. From the day a woman becomes a sea maiden, she is destined to spend the rest of her life praying to the sea god. But for many people, this is nothing compared to the power and status that comes with it. But it doesn't mean that you can become a sea maiden if you are willing to make sacrifices. The awakening of a sea maiden is uncontrollable. Unless a pure sea witch passes on the power of the sea god obtained after awakening to the next pure woman to help her awaken. Pure girls are more friendly to certain powers, which is why many sects require saints to remain virgins and never marry. Of course, external propaganda is to better serve God. If their offspring are born, they will pass on part of their power to their offspring, accelerating the consumption of the power leaked by Kyogre, and this kind of inheritance is difficult to control. Therefore, in order to protect the interests of the Whirlpool Islands and prevent the inheritance from being cut off, the Whirlpool Islands have long established a tradition of prohibiting sea witches from getting married. However, as the saying goes, the more you prohibit, the more you cannot prohibit. Since this rule was established, sea witches have often crossed the line, and the Whirlpool Islands have also strictly guarded against it, and imposed extremely severe penalties on sea witches who crossed the line, and gradually stopped this trend. Although most of the descendants of sea witches have been wiped out, there are always 1 or 2 fish that slip through the net. Holding that ceremony would consume a lot of the power of the sea god, which would inevitably harm the interests of the Whirlpool Islands. The Whirlpool Islands obviously would not agree, which is why this land eventually turned into a desert. The Caesar family's initial plan was to pretend to be a gangster and attack the sea witch who was out, and then Caesar stepped forward to save the beauty, win the heart of the sea witch, and then everyone eloped happily together. Although the Whirlpool Islands is a big force, its main power is concentrated on the sea. Once the two escape to the land, it will not be a problem to protect them with the power of the family. When they leave Kanto and return to Unova, it will be far away from the emperor. In the end, Caesar will take the sea witch back to the sand castle, hold a ceremony, summon the power of Kyogre to bring rain, and turn the sand castle back to fertile land. As for the alliance, they will not care about this kind of thing, and they are even very happy that the sea witch eloped with Caesar. After all, the sand castle has become fertile land, and the Caesar family has become the ruler there. They are still subject to the jurisdiction of the alliance, which is much better than the Whirlpool Islands that have been wandering outside. Moreover, the alliance felt that it was totally worth it to exchange a sea witch for a piece of fertile land. Unfortunately, man proposes, God disposes. When the hero appeared, the strength he showed was not enough to save beauty. Instead, people were suspicious because of the various criminals' water. In the end, he was discovered, beaten up and thrown into the sea. Caesar was desperate, but he didn't expect that after being rescued, he accidentally discovered that his savior Duoga was actually the descendant of the sea witch, and he was gifted, just like a natural sea witch. Duoga is much easier to get than the sea witch, so Caesar used all his tricks to pursue Duoga, hoping to get her favor, return to Unova together, and revive the dry land. Can't we just tie her back? Number 2 asked. If the other party doesn't cooperate, just tie her back directly. If you can't solve the problem, then solve the person with the problem. Number 2's idea is so simple and crude. Caesar shook his head. That ritual requires the wholehearted cooperation of the sea maiden in order to summon Kyogre's power. Forcing the other party is useless. The other party must be willing. What a hassle. Number 2 complained, and then said, why not just hire her directly? This method is feasible, but it is not perfect. Caesar explained, this ritual needs to be held once every 10 years. If you pay to hire her, the cost will be too high. This is why the family wants to take the sea maiden away instead of hiring her. In fact, those sea maidens in the Whirlpool Islands, rather than saying that they have mastered the power of the sea god, it is better to say that they are just containers of the power of the sea god, accumulated from generation to generation. They have not truly obtained the power of the sea god, and it is difficult for them to give birth to offspring with the power of the sea god. Even if they are obtained, they can only help the family solve problems during their lifetime. But Miss Duoga is different. I have checked the history of her family before. Her family originally lived in the Orange Islands, but left the Orange Islands during the reign of the Whirlpool Islands priest Helena and settled in Kanto. They have never returned since then. Helena? The so-called strongest sea maiden in history. Number 2 asked. For the sake of the family's plan, they have studied the history of the Whirlpool Islands. This sea witch did not awaken through inheritance, but awakened naturally. She is a person who can use the power of the sea god by nature. After her, the sea witch can basically only rely on inheritance to awaken. Yes. Caesar nodded. I suspect that Miss Duog is a direct descendant of Helena, so she can awaken the power of the sea god congenitally. I have investigated that there will be people awakening in every generation of her family, but the strength of the ability is different. In other words, the power of the sea god has been integrated into their blood. If I can win the heart of Miss Duogi and combine with her, then our descendants will inherit the power of the sea god, and in this way, the family's problems will be solved once and for all. Number 2 and number 7 looked at each other and were convinced by Caesar's plan. They bowed at the same time. The young master's plan is perfect, and we will definitely help with all our strength. Well, Caesar nodded with satisfaction. With my charm, it is not difficult to track Miss Duogi, but the difficult thing is that there is a guy blocking our way. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89 Xiaobo's Invention. On the other side, Xuanjian was also using his alone time to talk to Xiaobo. What surprised Xuanjian was that Xiaobo had already studied Xuanjian's discovery and had achieved certain results. So, the ancient trainers let the Pokémon sleep and enter a special dream world, and then they were able to obtain a magical power from the dream world to catalyze the evolution of Scyther into Giant Mantis. Xuanjian confirmed with Xiaobo. That's right, Xiaobo nodded, but the success rate of this evolution is not 100%, and it seems to be related to the strength of the Pokémon. The stronger the Scyther, the easier it is to succeed. The success rate is not 100%. Xuanjian was a little disappointed. His Scyther was already disabled, and it was even more mysterious to encounter an evolution method with a success rate that was not 100%. It seemed that he had no choice but to give up. Xiaobo also saw Xuanjian's disappointment, so he said, "Don't be discouraged, take a look at my new invention." Then he pointed the camera at a bottle of purple liquid in the window. "What is this?" Xuanjian asked curiously. "I invented a brand new metal coating," Xiaobo said proudly. "Based on this discovery, I changed its formula and used the serum of the Dream Smoke Beast as a solvent to replace the original organic solvent to make a brand new metal coating." "Is it different from the original metal coating?" "The previous metal coating formula was close to perfection, and I don't know what the difference is between this new formula and the previous one." Of course, Xiaobo picked up his invention. You know that the giant mantis has 3 characteristics, among which the insect premonition and technical master are inherited from the scythe period, and the light metal characteristic is obtained by a few scythes after evolution. I studied these giant mantises that have obtained the light metal characteristic and found that in addition to the common characteristic of their small body, the metal coating they use is also quite special. These special metal coatings induce changes in their characteristics. Based on this, plus that discovery, I invented this new metal coating. After using this metal coating, the evolved giant mantis will retain the original characteristics while obtaining the light metal characteristic. How about it? Do you want a bottle? It sounds good. The giant mantis with light metal characteristics weighs only half of the normal one, and its other attributes have not changed. Weight loss is equivalent to increasing the speed of the giant claw mantis in disguise, making it move faster. The speed of the evolved giant claw mantis is not high, and speed is extremely important for the Pokémon that take the physical attack route, so this characteristic is very precious. My own Scyther has the technical master characteristic. If it obtains light metal after evolution, the giant claw mantis with dual characteristics will be invincible in physical attack. However, why didn't you hear about such an important invention before? Xuanjian asked. With Xiaobo's personality, if there was such a powerful invention, it would have been publicized a long time ago. There shouldn't be any side effects, right? Xiaobo's smile froze, and he sighed and said, "Hey, I knew I couldn't hide it from you. This thing has strong side effects. It hasn't passed the League's review, and even few people in the Rockets are willing to use it." "What side effects?" Xiaobo said hesitantly. "A Scyther using this metal coating will be dragged into the dream world. If it cannot defeat the enemies it encounters, it will sleep there forever. And for some reason, this side effect is getting more and more serious, and fewer Scythers can successfully evolve. The probability has dropped from 80% at the beginning to infinitely close to 0. Xuanjian looked at Xiaobo speechlessly. This old guy is really a pit. If he hadn't asked one more question, he might have been fooled. You recommended it to me with such serious side effects. Xiaobo scratched his bald head awkwardly and said, that was in the past. Now I have improved it. Such accidents will not happen again. He walked to a room, pointed to one of the machines and said, after reflection, I made this dream machine. As long as you cooperate with this machine, you will be able to complete the evolution easily. What do you mean? Through this machine, the trainer can also enter the dream world synchronously with Scyther, command Scyther in the dream, help Scyther fight, and because the trainer enters the dream world independently, it is much easier to escape. The machine will connect the trainer and Scyther, so that both can share the power of escape, making it easier for Scyther to escape from the dream. Xuanjian looked at Xiaobo speechlessly, but while sharing, the trainer's chance of escape has also become smaller, right? Xiaobo, this invention of yours is even less reliable than the previous one. The previous one might cause the Pokémon to die, but now even the trainer might have to die. No wonder no one used it after you invented it. For most trainers, it is acceptable for the Pokémon to take risks, but it is totally unacceptable for them to take risks themselves. That's why no one knows about Xiaobo's invention. Being accused by Xuanjian again, Xiaobo felt a little embarrassed and said loudly, how can you gain power without taking more risks? The energy to increase a characteristic does not come out of thin air, it is obtained from the dream world. How can you get it without entering the dream world? I will not say more, just tell me whether you want to use this machine. Xuanjian did not reply to Xiaobo immediately, but asked, what is the success rate you calculated? More than 96%, which is similar to the current method. Xiaobo paused, and continued, and because the evolution is completed gradually, more intervention can be made on the elves. I guarantee that you will never find a way of evolution of your Scyther more suitable than this. Xuanjian was silent. With his understanding of Scyther and Scyther's character, he would definitely agree to give it a try without hesitation after knowing the news. After some deep thought, Xuanjian finally made a decision. Okay, I agree to use your invention. Seeing Xuanjian silent for a long time, Xiaobo was disappointed. He didn't expect Xuanjian to decide to use his invention. He was very happy. Okay. You wait on Xuanjian Island, I will send someone to send the machine over. Then he hung up the phone in a hurry. Looking at the darkened screen, Xuanjian smiled helplessly. He didn't expect that one day he would become an experimental subject. He really didn't know why he suddenly agreed to the other party's request just now. He called out Scyther and explained it to it. Sure enough, Scyther said that he was willing to give it a try. If Xuanjian was unwilling to accompany it to try the improved machine, then it was willing to use the metal coating first invented by Xiaobo to try to evolve. After confirming Scyther's intention, Xuanjian patted its shoulder and said, don't worry, Xiaobo, I have promised to enter the dream world with you. You must take good care of me at that time. Scyther nodded, and a touch of emotion flashed in his eyes. Chapter 90 Underground Casino. Why don't we not go? Wearing a mask, Duogi looked around at the gloomy environment and asked apprehensively. The thing is, during dinner, Xuanjian told Caesar and Duogi that he would be waiting for Xiaobo to arrive on Xuanjian Island. Of course, in Xuanjian's introduction, Xiaobo was an amateur who liked to do unconventional research, not a scientist from Team Rocket. Neither of them had any objection to this, and even Caesar unexpectedly did not ask Xuanjian how he knew Xiaobo, but he suggested that they could go somewhere to kill time. This place is the underground black boxing arena. No matter which world it is, gambling is illegal, even if many things called lotteries and raffles are originally a kind of gambling. But in the same world, this kind of thing is repeatedly banned. As the Orange Islands are mainly supported by tourism, there are countless underground gambling venues. Different worlds have different ways of gambling. In many places in this world, gambling is carried out by elves fighting. Neither Duogi, who was born in aristocracy, nor Xuanjian, who was born in a commoner family, had ever seen such gambling. Out of curiosity about underground gambling, they decided to go to the underground casino to kill time at Caesar's suggestion. Don't worry, it's safe around. Caesar, who was also wearing a mask, comforted Duogi, The underground casino in Xuanjian Island is quite famous in the entire Orange Alliance. It looks a little scary here, but it's just a cover. In fact, it's very safe nearby, otherwise how would those gamblers from different regions dare to come here to gamble? After hearing Caesar's words, Duoga relaxed a little, but he was still a little nervous. He followed the two closely and didn't dare to leave. After passing through the dilapidated and gloomy underground passage, the front suddenly opened up, and bright lights and noisy noises were seen from afar, which made people curious. "We're here," Caesar said. "There are many areas here. Which area do you want to go to?" Xuanjian and Duoga looked at each other and said, "We don't really understand either. Do you have any good suggestions?" Caesar thought for a moment, then said, "Some things here are not suitable for you. Why don't we go to the Colosseum to watch the elves' gambling game? I'll listen to you." Both of them had no objection to Caesar's suggestion, so they followed him to the Colosseum. "You seem to be very familiar with this place?" Xuanjian asked in confusion. It would not be strange if he only knew what projects there were in this place, but it would be strange if he was also so familiar with the route of this place. "I came here when I was traveling with someone before," Caesar explained. Xuanjian did not ask any more questions, but looked around. In the center of the venue is an iron cage made of steel bars, surrounded by circles of audience seats, which were almost full at this time. Some of these audiences wore various masks like the three of them, and some showed their true faces. Maids dressed as bunny girls shuttled through the audience seats with beer and chips, stopping from time to time to sell them to the audience. "We picked a good time," Caesar introduced to the two people. "Usually, here we bet on the outcome of the elves' duel given by the casino, just like betting on horse racing, but tonight there will be a monthly audience participation competition. Anyone can participate, and as long as you win, you can get a considerable bonus, and the more you win, the more bonus you will get in the end. That's a bonus that makes me a little excited." At this time, a burst of manic music sounded on the stage in front of the central iron cage, and then a clown in funny clothes came out and said loudly to the crowd on the field, "Hello everyone, I'm Jamie, welcome to the underground arena of Kumquat Island. As everyone knows, we are going to hold a monthly audience participation competition today. Anyone can come to participate in this game. For each win, the bonus will be doubled. Of course, if you accidentally lose, then you will lose all the bonuses. Next, I will tell you what today's starting bonus is." The clown clapped his hands, and then two bunny girls came up carrying a huge sign covered with a red cloth. Jamie the clown stepped forward, grabbed a corner of the red cloth, and lifted it up. The red cloth fell off immediately, revealing the numbers in the middle of the sign. The bunny girls held the sign high and walked around the venue to make sure everyone saw it. 200,000 yuan. Today's starting prize is 200,000 yuan. A very high number. Everyone, cheer! Jamie the clown shouted to the crowd, and the audience responded and cheered wildly. It was not known whether it was for the high prize or for the trainer who was about to go on stage because of the prize. "Then is there anyone willing to come up?" Jamie the clown asked. "I'll do it." A boy who looked a little thin walked up to the stage tremblingly, holding a Pokeball that looked a little inferior in his hand. "Oh, a brave child," Jamie said to the audience, and then walked up to the boy. "I know you, Abu, the poor little guy from the slums who is known as the genius of Kumquat Island. If I remember correctly, your mother is seriously ill. Are you here for this?" The boy nodded. "Poor fellow, may God bless you." Jamie made a prayer gesture in a funny way, which immediately attracted laughter from the audience. "So what do you want to use as a bet?" "This." The boy handed over a round stone that looked like a glass marble. "A stone. This is a treasure left by my father. He was a very powerful captain." The boy explained. "Really? I don't know which father of yours it is. Your mother seems to have many husbands." Jamie asked. The sarcasm implied in his words immediately caused laughter in the audience. All kinds of vulgar words flowed out of the audience's mouths, and the scene became chaotic for a while. The boy clenched his fists angrily, as if he wanted to beat Jamie, but he finally let go powerlessly and said with his head down, "This is really a precious treasure. My mother said so." Jamie raised the stone, and the camera immediately aimed at it. The audience saw the appearance of the stone through the projector, a spherical, transparent light orange stone with an S shape in the center, divided into yellow and red, which looked like an old-fashioned glass marble. Xuanjian recognized it immediately. This was Charizard's Super Evolution Stone Y, a precious item from the Kalos region. The market price of this super evolution stone would not be much lower than 100,000. Unfortunately, it was rare even in the Kalos region, not to mention the Orange Islands, which were 108,000 miles away. Xuanjian naturally would not reveal the fact that he knew what it was, so he waited for a long time, and no one recognized what it was. But even if no one recognized it, the S in the stone kept spinning spontaneously, which obviously proved that this stone was very extraordinary. Okay, lucky boy, even if this is a gem. But it's still not enough, unless you bet on yourself. Bet on myself. That's right, if you lose, you don't belong to yourself, but to us. The boy gritted his teeth and finally said, okay. Very good. Clown Jamie said, opening the door of the iron cage, you can go in. Thanks to book friends 151,224,081,531,999, Ningjing, Beiwa Yi Apple, and Gongcheng Xianxin for their rewards. Chapter 91, Fight. Seeing the boy enter the cage, the audience cheered loudly. The clown Jamie shouted, now, please welcome our first Pokemon today, Beedrill. Following Jamie's voice, an iron cage was pushed in by two strong men from outside, and then the cage was opened, releasing a Beedrill that looked like it was covered with scars. Jamie introduced, this Beedrill is the winner of last week's Pokemon fight. It has outstanding combat power. Can our genius Abu defeat it? Everyone, place your bets. As long as you have a unique vision and a little bit of luck, you can win a lot of money. I bet on Beedrill. That boy looks like a weak chicken, how can he win? Bet on that boy, how dare he come up without a few brushes? The audience around immediately shouted to the bunny girls holding the chips, and each bet the side they were optimistic about. Duoga looked at the Beedrill and asked Xuanjian, is that Beedrill strong? She still had some sympathy for the boy Duoga and hoped that he could win the game. Before Xuanjian could answer, Caesar introduced them. Generally, the elves that appear in the arena are not weak. According to what Jamie said just now, this giant bee was the champion of last week's weekly competition, so its strength should be very strong. At this time, a bunny girl walked in front of the three people with a cat step, handed the plate with chips to the three people, and flirted with Caesar. Bet on the giant bee, 10,000. Caesar took out a bank card and said to the two people, how about buying one for fun? I'll treat you. Both of them shook their heads and rejected Caesar's proposal. Although neither of them was a good person, they really couldn't do such a thing as entertaining the pain of their own kind. Seeing the two shaking their heads to refuse, Caesar didn't care and placed his bets on his own. 10,000 chips was a small amount of money for Caesar, but it was a rare big deal for the bunny girl. The bunny girl kept winking at Caesar and twisting her plump body, suggesting that he could invite her to do something shameless together. Unfortunately, with Duogi around, Caesar could only enjoy the sight, and the bunny girl's plan was undoubtedly unsuccessful. The audience quickly placed their bets, and the battle on the field officially began. The young boy Abu opened the inferior Pokeball in his hand, and a Rattata appeared on the field. Battle begin. As the order was issued, the giant bee immediately launched an attack. It flapped its wings quickly, raised its spear-like needle, used a flash of lightning, and instantly rushed towards Abu. Ah, how can a giant bee attack a trainer? Duoga exclaimed in surprise. A big man nearby heard Duoga's cry and turned around, saying to Duoga, little sister, this is an underground arena, which is different from those orthodox competitions. Trainers are also within the attack range. Once you go on stage, life and death are at your own risk. While the big man was explaining, Beedrill rushed to Abu, and the spear flashing with cold light almost pierced Abu. However, Abu was obviously prepared for this. He rolled on the ground and avoided the attack of Beedrill. Then his Raida immediately pounced on it and attacked Beedrill with angry front teeth. But the experienced Beedrill obviously would not be hit so easily. With a beautiful pull, he avoided Raida's attack. Flying-type Pokemon have a huge advantage against non-flying Pokemon, especially against Pokemon like Raida, who have no long-range skills. Beedrill also obviously understood this and immediately switched to using Flying Needle Bullets to attack. Flying Needle Bullets are not powerful, and the tricks are very gorgeous to use, but they test the coordination ability of Pokemon very much. It is a common skill in gorgeous competitions. This Beedrill had a very good grasp of the Flying Needle Bullets. One after another, the Flying Needle Bullets were fired at Abu and Rattata from different directions along different trajectories. Although they tried to dodge, they were still hit many times. If this was an ordinary Pokemon battle, it can be said that Beedrill's victory was already determined, but unfortunately this was an illegal underground duel. Although this style of play was clever, it obviously could not satisfy the audience around. What they needed was a fierce match where every move drew blood and every punch hit the flesh. So the audience protested, and it became more and more intense. In addition, some people who bet on Abu were unwilling to lose like this, and they also shouted that it was unfair, and the scene was a little chaotic for a while. Jamie tried many times but failed to calm the angry crowd, so he could only gesture to the strong man who was escorting the Beedrill to the cage. The sturdy man nodded, untied the whip tied to his waist, swung it with a crackling sound, and ordered, "Go over and use the double needle attack." Hearing the other party's order, the Beedrill was reluctant to give up the advantage it had, but after hearing the whip's cracking, its body trembled, as if it thought of something terrible, so it had to stop the flying needle bombs and use the double needles to attack instead. Seeing the Beedrill swooping towards him again, the boy who had been defending with his head in his arms flashed a smile of success on his face. He met the swooping Beedrill without dodging, blocked its attack with his body, and at the same time tightly grasped the double needles of the Beedrill. Rada, now, use the self-sacrifice collision. Rada and Abu had obviously cooperated for more than 1 or 2 times. When Abu stepped forward, he was prepared. Hearing Abu's order, he immediately rushed towards the Beedrill and issued a self-sacrifice collision. Rada jumped high and hit the Beedrill forcefully, knocking the Beedrill flying backwards. Abu held on tightly to Beedrill and was also taken out. Both of them fell to the ground at the same time, but Abu still held on to Beedrill's double needles tightly. Rada, use the fatal front teeth. Abu ordered again. Rada's front teeth are so sharp that they can even chew stones. The skills released by the front teeth immediately ended the Beedrill that had not recovered yet without any suspense. Seeing that Beedrill had completely lost its combat effectiveness, Abu let go of his hands and sat on the ground and took a deep breath. Well done, Rada. Abu gave Rada a thumbs up. At this time, he was attacked by flying needles many times, and his whole body was covered with scars. The hands that directly blocked the attack of Beedrill showed deep scars that could be seen to the bone, and blood flowed down. However, Abu's face did not show any pain. For him, this little injury was nothing. As long as he got the bonus and healed his mother, everything would be worth it. The winners are Abu and his Rada. Jamie announced reluctantly. If it weren't for the crowd's disturbance, how could this kid win? But this kid thought he could take the prize money so easily, he underestimated himself. Jamie turned to the audience who were arguing about whether the win or loss was fair and announced, "Next, Abu and Rada will continue to fight against Howley." Hearing Jamie's voice, the crowd immediately shifted their attention again. For most of them, the little money they lost was not a big deal. In comparison, gladiatorial competitions were more attractive to them. "I refuse. I will only fight 1 game," Abu said to Jamie. He knew his level well. If he didn't use a trick, he couldn't even beat Beedrill himself. "You can refuse," Jamie said to Abu, "but you will lose the prize money and your bead." "Why? I beat Beedrill. According to the rules, I should win the prize money. Are you going to violate the rules you set?" "No, no, no," Jamie shook his finger. "We are all trustworthy people. How can we violate the rules we set? You didn't understand the rules clearly. We said that you have to defeat the same number of opponents to take away the prize money. I defeated a Beedrill. Isn't it the same number?" "Of course not." Jamie showed a cunning smile. "It was not just Rada who attacked the Beedrill just now. You also launched an attack. From the moment you launched the attack, the number of participants became 2, which means you must reach 1 more Pokémon. I was defending. Do I have to endure the Beedrill attacking me?" Abu questioned. "That's right." Jamie nodded. "This is not fair." "This is fair, my child. Please don't bring outside ideas here. These are 2 different worlds." Then Jamie turned to the audience. "This is fair, everyone, don't you think so?" "Yes," the crowd replied. "They are not fair and just philanthropists. They come here to have fun. It is a very good show to see a teenager being toyed with like this and finally die on this stage. How can these people do this? The boy has been seriously injured and will die if he continues like this," Duoga said angrily to Xuanjian and Caesar. Although she knew that this world was not as bright and beautiful as it seemed, this kind of evil was beyond her imagination. These people have lost their humanity and can no longer be called human beings. Xuanjian also said. He did not expect to see the darkness of this world so soon. Compared with those crazy scientists who conducted various illegal experiments on elves, these guys who harm their own kind are more hateful. Caesar smiled and said nothing, but when Duoga wasn't paying attention, he leaned close to Xuanjian's ear and whispered meaningfully, "This world has always been so cruel. Many of the audience here are actually well-dressed upper-class people during the day. They come here to fill the emptiness of life, and those lowly civilians are only worthy of using their lives to embellish their lives below." Xuanjian didn't reply, because the duel on the field had already started again. This time, Abu's opponent was a strong Goriok. Compared with a giant hornet, Goriok may not have any advantages and skills, but its punch-to-flesh attack method is undoubtedly very much in line with the audience's requirements, so it can exert its full strength. Facing Goriok who exerted his full strength, Abu and Retta were completely unable to match him. Retta used a collision attack, which was easily avoided by the well-trained Goriok. Abu wanted to get close to Haoli, but he was no match for Haoli's strength. Haoli grabbed him by the neck and smashed him out. Then he turned around and used the exploding fist on Retta, who rushed over again and used the angry fangs to attack, completely breaking Retta's front teeth. Retta and Abu both lost their fighting ability, but Haoli did not stop. He walked in front of Retta first, with a flash of blood in his eyes. Then he used the exploding fist again on the head of Retta, who had lost his fighting ability. "Ah! No!" Duoga screamed, but was bared by the cheers of the audience. The exploding fist was so powerful that even the stone slabs on the ground were cracked, not to mention Retta, who was hit by the exploding fist. Retta's head was severely deformed, and a stream of red and white liquid came out of his nostrils. Retta twitched a few times at last, and then completely stopped moving. This cruel scene greatly satisfied the empty audiences around. They shouted at the top of their lungs, "Well done, Haoli!" Amid the shouts of the audience, Haoli once again came to Abu, who was lying motionless on the ground, and lifted him up by pinching his feet. "Tear him apart! Tear him apart!" The audience realized what was going to happen next and shouted even more crazily. "No, no, no, you can't do this!" Duoga clenched her fists and begged weakly, but her voice was so weak in the whole audience that even Xuanjian could hardly hear it. Amid Duoga's prayers and the roars of the audience, Haoli's muscular arms gradually opened. The second update is here. The tickets have not been ideal these 2 days. Please give us more face. Chapter 92, Take Action. Abu's legs were slowly pulled apart by Haoli, and the cheers of the audience on the field became louder and louder. A bloodthirsty smile flashed across Haoli's face, and he deliberately slowed down his movements again to enjoy the cruel moment. He had done this many times, but every time it still made him extremely intoxicated. If he couldn't resist those hateful supervisors in the arena, he would take it out on their weaker counterparts. After stretching Abu's legs to the limit of natural conditions, Haoli took a deep breath and prepared to use force to tear Abu apart and taste his warm blood. Moreover, experience told him that if he did so, the audience would be aroused to the greatest enthusiasm, and he would get more rewards after the game. Just as Haoli was imagining the happy time to come, suddenly, a stream of cold water shot into his face, which scared him, and even the bloodthirsty desire in his heart was extinguished. He quickly threw away Abu in his hand and took a defensive posture, guarding against attacks from unknown directions. The audience around was also attracted by the sudden water gun, and they all looked in the direction where the water gun came from. I saw Starfish standing in the audience, and next to it stood a masked boy, holding a standard Pokeball of the league in his hand. Fuck, the scene I have been looking forward to for so long was ruined by this kid. It's a child. Probably those little guys who just came out to travel and have a sense of justice. There will be a good show to watch. When was the last time such a fool came out? The audience looked at Xuanjian and talked about it, and the arena immediately became chaotic. Many people even cast malicious eyes at Xuanjian, constantly making various gestures to intimidate Xuanjian. However, due to the rules of the arena, no one dared to really do it. Jamie looked at Xuanjian with a headache. This kind of young man with a sense of justice was the most troublesome. If ordinary people dared to make trouble, he would have ordered them to be chopped up and dragged out to feed Houndoom. But the guy in front of him looked like a young trainer who had just made his debut in the league. These guys often had deep backgrounds, including family background and being favored by the league, and they could not be easily touched. Although his boss was not afraid of them, He did not want to easily get into such trouble. So he had to pretend to be a grandson to fool them every time, but fortunately these little guys were relatively young and could be fooled easily. I wonder what this friend wants? Why did you interrupt the game? Jamie asked pretentiously, thinking about which Pokemon to send next to fight with the opponent, then pretend to admit defeat because of lack of strength, and then pretend to be convinced by the opponent and send it away. Well, Howley is definitely not good. This guy is too bloodthirsty. If he is sent, he will definitely not pretend to admit defeat. So who should he send? Hey, tonight is the weekly competition. I don't know how much I will lose. Did I tell those guys guarding the gate not to let such troublemakers in? How can they guard the gate? Nothing, I just think you shouldn't let Howley kill that boy. After all, that boy just bet on him. If Howley kills him, then there will be one less chip. The rule in the arena is that the winner takes all. Those lost chips will be incorporated into the original chips. Under such accumulation, the chips will increase and become more and more, which will make people more and more crazy. Jamie was caught off guard by Xuanjian's different reaction. Shouldn't he say something righteous at this time? What are you going to do? Duoga stood up from his seat, pulled Xuanjian over, and whispered in his ear, "Don't be impulsive. These guys have been entrenched here for many years, and even the Orange Alliance secretly allows their existence in order to develop tourism. Don't be impulsive." Although he didn't want to see the boy killed, Xuanjian was undoubtedly more important than the boy. Xuanjian smiled. Although his face was covered by the mask, Duoga still felt his smile. "Don't worry, I won't be impulsive." Xuanjian held Duoga's hand. "I'm not such a righteous guy, I just have some ideas about those rewards." He is not a middle school boy, and he will not do that just to save people, even with the Charizard Mega Evolution Stone. He will participate in Xiaobo's experiment next, and enter the dream world with Scyther. The environment there is unknown, but there is no doubt that he needs to fight with Scyther, instead of being a trainer who controls from behind. This is very similar to the gladiatorial competition in front of him, so he might as well feel it in advance. If he loses here, he can still make up for it, but if he loses in the dream world, he will lose completely. After comforting Duoga, Xuanjian turned to Jamie and continued, "I have read the rules at the door. The rules say that after the previous challenger fails, someone can challenge again, right?" "Yes, do you want to?" "Yes, I will challenge again. And I will be the bet," Xuanjian announced. Hearing Xuanjian's words, the atmosphere on the field became heated again. Originally, they thought that someone would mess up tonight, and then at most they would have to watch Jamie make a fool of himself. Unexpectedly, this kid actually dared to challenge. This is really a good show to watch. Although the arena is unwilling to provoke these trainers, if the other party comes to the door, they will not be soft-hearted. The forces behind the arena can still bear the trouble caused by killing one or two ignorant guys. Jamie hesitated, not sure how strong Xuanjian's backstage is. The audience on the field has been mobilized again, shouting, "Promise him! Promise him!" At this time, a bunny girl walked over. She came to Jamie's ear and whispered a few words. Jamie immediately smiled and said, "Okay, I promise you." Xuanjian nodded, let go of Duoga's hand, and prepared to go on stage. Duoga grabbed Xuanjian's hand and said, "I don't know what you want to do, but I know you are not an impulsive person. So I choose to support you, but you take this." Then he stuffed a Pokeball into Xuanjian's hand. Xuanjian recognized that it was the Pokeball containing Dragonite. As the elf left by Duoga's father, Long Long once had the strength of a king, but due to years of neglect, it has been reduced to the elite level. However, these days, he has been traveling around the Orange Islands with a group of people, and has been constantly trained. He has recovered to a certain extent and is only a step away from the king level. The power of the king level elves is self-evident. With Long Long in hand, Xuanjian's risk of this challenge is greatly reduced. Holding the elf ball, Xuanjian felt a strange thing growing in his heart, and said softly, "Don't worry, wait for me to come back." Then he turned and walked towards the field. Please recommend. Chapter 93, Battle Against Howley. Looking at Xuanjian who walked into the iron cage, the clown Jamie showed a sneer at the corner of his mouth. Although the arena is not a legal industry, how could it be so large without the tacit approval of the Alliance? This kid actually dared to come here to make money, which was simply a dog's guts. Isn't he just a slightly dazzling new researcher in the Kanto Alliance? If such a guy gets into trouble, no one will come to seek justice for him. But then again, the efficiency of his men is still quite high this time. They found out where this kid came from so quickly, and maybe they can let him in without pursuing it. On the other side, Xuanjian just walked into the cage with Hai Xingxing, and the iron door was immediately locked by the strong man guarding the door, as if he was afraid that Xuanjian would escape. During the time when Xuanjian came from the audience to the arena, the venue had been cleared again. Rada's body was thrown somewhere unknown, and the damaged stone slab was replaced with a new one. Abu was thrown casually on the edge of the arena, and his super evolution stone as a bargaining chip was also put into the bet pile. Xuanjian didn't care about it. He just glanced at it and then looked at Gu Li, who was already on high alert. In fact, he originally wanted to train Scyther, but it was a pity that Scyther didn't have long-range skills to stop Gu Li's violence. According to the rules of the arena, as long as he attacked, he would be considered as participating in the competition. Xuanjian could only bring Starfish. Dear friends, it's rare to have a formal trainer to participate in our game tonight. Let's cheer. The clown Jamie encouraged the crowd and made a gesture to the person in charge of controlling the Pokémon outside the cage, signaling them to start. After receiving the gesture from Jamie, the other party immediately issued an attack command. Amid the cheers of the audience, Gu Li launched the attack. He saw that his hands were protecting his most vulnerable head, his eyes observed the movements of Xuanjian and Starfish through the gap between his arms, and his feet took small steps and rushed towards Xuanjian. Xuanjian looked at Gali and narrowed his eyes. Gali knew how to protect his weaknesses. With the power of the water gun, there was no way to cause effective damage to Gali. After a little thought, Xuanjian ordered, Hai Xingxing, jump up and land on the opposite side of Gali. Hai Xingxing immediately executed Xuanjian's order, moved behind Gali with the help of the water gun, and sandwiched him in the middle with Xuanjian. Seeing Xuanjian's actions, the audience on the field was in an uproar. They all knew that in the arena, Pokémon attacking trainers was allowed and even encouraged. Xuanjian's actions undoubtedly exposed himself completely to Gali's attack. If Hai Xingxing couldn't hit Gali as soon as possible, then Xuanjian would be in danger. Seeing the opponent's actions, Gali stopped and hesitated for a moment, then continued to rush towards Xuanjian. Hai Xingxing, who is also a Pokémon, was not easy to deal with. It was better to kill the fragile trainer first, so that he could use the opponent to threaten Hai Xingxing to surrender. Hai Xingxing, attack with water guns. Xuanjian ordered calmly, not taking Haoli, who rushed towards him seriously. Hai Xingxing shot water guns at Haoli, who had his back to him, but Haoli dodged it with a light jump as if he had eyes on his back. But the attack of Hai Xingxing, who could fight with a sea dragon, was not so easy to dodge. After Haoli dodged a water gun, another water gun hit it from behind. Feeling that he was hit by the water gun, Haoli did not panic, but hooked his head forward, blocking the water gun with his muscular back, then bent down and hugged his knees, curled up, rolled forward, dodged the water gun and rushed in front of Xuanjian. Opening his body, Haoli quickly stood up. The average height of Haoli is 1.5 meters, and this one is even taller than Xuanjian. Standing in front of Xuanjian, Haoli blocked Xuanjian's way like a small mountain. Haoli had a smile on his face, showing that his plan had succeeded, and stretched out his muscular right hand to grab Xuanjian's neck. The audience who saw this scene immediately became excited, as if they had seen Xuanjian being knocked unconscious by Haoli and then torn to pieces, and they shouted wildly. Xuanjian had a cold smile on his face. This Haoli was too careless, thinking that he had no ability to resist like Abu, so he chose this somewhat showy way. Unfortunately, he was not the weak chicken he imagined. Starfish, freezing ray. Xuanjian ordered, then leaned back to avoid Haoli's hand, bounced up his right leg, hit Haoli's chest heavily, and used the rebound force to do a backflip to distance himself from Haoli. The body shapes of many fighting Pokémon are very similar to those of humans, and their relative weaknesses are also similar, such as the heart. If this position is attacked, it will affect blood circulation and breathing oxygen supply at the same time, and the movement will be involuntarily delayed. Haoli underestimated Xuanjian, and was kicked in the heart by Xuanjian's right foot. With Xuanjian's strength, if this blow hit a person, at least 3 or 4 ribs would be broken. The strong muscles and bones of Haoli's body naturally cannot resist the blows of humans, but he also felt chest tightness and shortness of breath in an instant, and his movements could not help but sluggish for a moment, and then he was submerged by the freezing light emitted by the starfish behind him. The starfish used all its strength to attack, and the freezing light continued to be emitted for a long time. When the freezing light dissipated, a human-shaped ice sculpture appeared in front of everyone. Howley was hit by a water gun before, and his body was covered with water droplets. Under the effect of the freezing light, he was completely frozen. Everyone on the field was stunned by the changes on the field. They did not expect such a big turn. Howley, who had the advantage, lost to the opponent in an instant. But for them, who wins or loses is not important. What matters is that the game is exciting. Seeing that Xuanjian had the upper hand, they immediately began to shout to Xuanjian, "Boy, kill that Howley, let your starfish kill it." Xuanjian ignored their shouts. This Howley dared to attack humans. There is indeed a reason to kill it, but the ultimate source of all this is human greed and cruelty. This Howley is just an executor. Killing this Howley, the other party can train another one. Not only will it not change anything, but one more Howley will be distorted, which is not cost-effective. Clown, this Howley has lost its combat effectiveness, you guys take it back. I attacked Howley, so according to the rules I should have to fight with another elf, so please send it. Although his face was covered with the grease paint, Xuanjian could still see that the clown Jamie's face looked a little ugly, but Xuanjian spared Howley, so he could only be polite. After all, these elves are not easy to train. If he offended Xuanjian and he didn't show mercy to Howley and killed it directly, then the loss would be great. So the clown Jamie politely put on a fake smile to Xuanjian, and then directed two strong men to take Howley away. Then the next elf was sent up. Chapter 94, Drugs. After Golly was taken away, a cat boss was sent up. However, unlike Golly who was in an iron cage, the cat boss walked up by himself, followed by a trainer. Obviously, the opponent found that it was difficult for the Pokémon to defeat Xuanjian by relying on their own actions, so they sent the Pokémon trained by the trainer. The trainer was wearing a cloak. After taking the cat boss into the cage, he did not remove the cloak, but quietly waited for the game to start. Xuanjian looked at the opponent and knew that he was not a guy to be messed with, so he did not dare to neglect it. When Jamie gave the order to start, he immediately responded, "Starfish, protective color." The cat boss has no advantage in attributes, but the difficult thing is that it can learn 100,000 volts, which is very deadly to the water-based starfish. Since the opponent sent the cat boss, it is obvious that there are skills to restrain himself. The ground of the venue is paved with gray slates. After starfish uses the protective color, its own color becomes as gray as the ground, and its attributes are temporarily adjusted from water attributes to rock attributes. Seeing starfish's actions, the opponent was also a little surprised, but reacted quickly. The trainer under the cloak made a hoarse voice. Xuanjian didn't understand what the other party said at all, but Cat Boss had already reacted. He lowered his body and split into several shadow clones. Then he used his waist and hind legs to rush towards Xuanjian. Starfish, Bubble Light. Starfish was already very familiar with this move. He rotated his body, and balls of light sprayed out from his gemstone, falling in front of the advancing Cat Boss. The balls of light hit the shadow clones of Cat Boss, and both of them were destroyed at the same time. Soon the real body of Cat Boss was exposed. Seeing the real body, Starfish attacked more vigorously. He shot out balls of light and surrounded the advancing Cat Boss from different directions. Cat Boss noticed a ball of light blocking him, but he didn't stop. For him, whose body was extremely soft and flexible, this was difficult to pose a threat. Because some bubble light had been consumed by forcing out the real body before, the encirclement formed by the remaining bubble light was not tight, and there were huge gaps in many places. It jumped up lightly, constantly adjusting its body in the air, and passed through the gaps in the foam light. Looking at the Cat Boss who broke through the defense line and approached, Xuanjian did not dare to neglect it. The opponent was prepared and not as careless as Haoli. In addition, the Cat Boss's lightning speed made it troublesome to attack him directly. So Xuanjian ordered, Haixing, rotate at high speed to hit. Usually Xuanjian rarely let Haixing use the collision skill, because Haixing's soft body destined it to be difficult for it to make achievements in physical attacks. But now Haixing has temporarily changed to rock attributes, and its body has become much harder. The effect of using physical skills will be much better. In addition, to stop the fast-moving Cat Boss, Haixing must use physical attacks. Haixing has been spinning non-stop. For it, Who thinks with gems as the center, it never has to worry about the problem of dizziness caused by rotation. After receiving the order, Haixing's rotation accelerated further, and at the same time, it hit the cat boss, who broke through the defense line. Seeing that the opponent was blocking his way and attacking him at the same time, cat boss also fought back. He raised his claws, and the dark purple energy gathered at the tip of his claws, forming a shadow claw, which collided head-on with Starfish. Starfish's strength was not as good as cat boss, but after the skills were strengthened, he finally tied with cat boss, and both sides were repelled. Seeing this scene, cat boss's trainer issued an order in a horse language again, and then saw cat boss pounce on Starfish again. Since he couldn't understand what the opponent's order was, Xuanjian could only judge the opponent's intention from cat boss's actions. Cat boss pounced on Starfish with his teeth and claws, and it seemed that he was going to use crazy scratching, but Xuanjian was a little skeptical. After all, compared to Starfish, it was the most correct strategy to be the first target of attack, but the opponent chose to attack Starfish, which was currently a rock attribute, so it was obviously a targeted skill. Cat boss was very fast and pounced on Starfish in an instant. His sharp claws immediately scratched Starfish, but it had little effect on Starfish, whose surface was temporarily hardened due to the rock attribute. Starfish was a little upset by such an attack, but it did not leave to attack without receiving the trainer's order, but simply relied on continuous rotation to avoid cat boss's attack. As if unable to bear being suppressed, Xuanjian finally issued an order. Starfish, hearing Xuanjian speak, cat boss immediately stopped attacking, and his slender and powerful tail instantly lit up, using the only skill that its tail could use, the steel skill Iron Tail, which is very effective against rock type. Its feints just now were all paving the way for this skill. If it was hit, Starfish would completely lose its combat effectiveness with its health and defense. There will be a pause when the Pokémon uses a skill, and what cat boss wants to do is to use this pause to deal twice the damage. Unfortunately, Xuanjian was prepared for this. He deliberately delayed his order, making the cat boss think that he was going to order Haixing to counterattack, and thus launched a real attack. However, his order was not officially issued until after the attack was launched. Remove the protective color. Then use the multiple water guns. Haixing immediately removed the protective color after receiving the order, and the attribute returned to the water attribute. The body also became soft again, and it went from being restrained by the Iron Tail to weakening the Iron Tail. The damage it received was only a quarter of what the cat boss planned. Haixing could survive such damage. The Iron Tail hit Haixing accurately, but Haixing's flexible body greatly weakened the damage it received, and even its movements were not affected. After resisting the attack, Haixing fired water guns from the 5 corners at the same time, hitting the cat boss. The combined power of the 5 water guns was not much weaker than the water cannon, and the cat boss was immediately rushed out. Haixing wanted to add a freezing ray, but unfortunately it was exhausted after continuous attacks and could only stop to recover. Starfish, self-regenerate. Xuanjian ordered while cat boss was lying on the ground and had not yet gotten up. This recovery skill does not consume much energy, so Starfish can use it. I saw a flash of light in the gem of Starfish, and the light flowed all over the body, and the wounds on the body healed instantly. Starfish's vitality is extremely strong. As long as the gem in the center is not damaged, the 5 corners can grow out even if they are broken. After Starfish used the skill, cat boss also got up, but his fur was all wet and stained with a lot of dust on the ground, looking very embarrassed. Cat boss's trainer walked to cat boss, took out a capsule and handed it to cat boss. Cat boss looked at the capsule and seemed to see something terrible. He was unwilling to eat it, but just lay on the ground and begged in a low voice. The single cloak man was indifferent to the pleading of his Pokémon, and a threat came out of his mouth. Cat boss opened his mouth and obediently ate the capsule. Xuanjian did not stop all this, because he knew that it was useless to stop him. After taking the capsule, the cat boss quickly became excited. His originally smooth neck hair became like a thunder elf, and his eyes became a little red. Xuanjian knew that the real fierce battle was coming. Please vote for recommendation. Chapter 95 Z Moves. The medicines that can be used for elves in this world are not only various medicines with good effects on the market, but also banned drugs that can stimulate the potential of elves in a short period of time, but have huge side effects. The one that Boss Cat took was one of the banned drugs. Generally speaking, the better the effect of the banned drug, the stronger the side effects. After Boss Cat took the medicine, Xuanjian felt that the energy in its body was like boiling water, rolling up and down. From the perspective of a normal person, it was the hair of Boss Cat that exploded and the body temperature rose. The originally wet hair was quickly evaporated at the body temperature comparable to that of a fire elf. Not daring to neglect it, after Hai Xingxing recovered a little, Xuanjian immediately ordered, "Hai Xingxing, use the freezing ray." After Hai Xingxing received Xuanjian's order, the freezing ray immediately shot out from the gem and shot at Boss Cat. If it was the original Boss Cat, he would definitely dodge flexibly with his speed advantage, but the Boss Cat who took the banned drug made a completely different response. He opened his mouth, and a dark purple shadow ball formed, facing the freezing ray. Boss Cat took a head-on approach. Two different forces collided violently in the field, and then exploded. The power of the shadow ball was weaker than that of the freezing ray. In addition, the shadow ball was a one-time energy, which was not as good as the freezing ray that continued to exert force. Naturally, it was suppressed by the freezing ray, but the power of the freezing ray was also weakened. The weakened freezing ray fell on the cat boss, and immediately covered him with a thin layer of ice. The cat boss didn't care about the thin ice covering his body, and even let out a comfortable groan. It seemed that it was not the freezing ray that caused damage to it, but a cold shower for it with a sharp rise in body temperature. Looking at the somewhat crazy cat boss, Xuanjian frowned, and the ominous premonition in his heart became stronger and stronger. His right hand gently moved to his waist and grabbed a Pokeball, deciding to open it immediately if things went wrong. The cat boss twisted his neck, stretched his body, and suddenly emitted a large amount of golden electric light. This was the electrical skill 100,000 volts. Hai Xingxing had been prepared for this, and sprayed out the freezing ray again, colliding with 100,000 volts. The 100,000 volts and freezing beams from both sides were about the same in power, and they were in a stalemate in the middle, and it seemed that neither of them could gain the upper hand. But Xuanjian suddenly sensed that the vitality in the cat boss body suddenly emerged and flowed into the violently boiling energy. Not good, Xuanjian said in his heart, and immediately opened the Pokeball on his waist and ordered, "Spy, use defend." As the vitality of the cat boss flowed in, the 100,000 volts it emitted suddenly became brighter and more powerful, turning into Z-move million volts. The suddenly stronger lightning instantly overwhelmed Hai Xingxing's freezing beam, and carried the energy of the collision between the two and shot at Hai Xingxing and Xuanjian. Fortunately, Xuanjian reacted quickly and summoned Spy. After Spy immediately appeared, it rushed in front of Hai Xingxing and Xuanjian, crossed its sickles, opened a golden shield, and blocked the opponent's fatal blow. Faced with such a move, it was not easy for Scyther to defend even if it used it. However, this was not an authentic Z move, and the damage was not so terrible, so Scyther defended it. Xuanjian was relieved, otherwise he and Hai Xingxing would be hit directly by the move just now, and they would definitely be seriously injured. It goes without saying what would happen next. Although the attack on the field was not as exciting as a fist-to-flesh fight, the confrontation between the two sides was also gorgeous, which satisfied the audience's appetite. Seeing that the cat boss used the Z move by consuming vitality, although they did not understand its power, it did not prevent them from watching the destructive skill effect. Seeing Xuanjian take out Scyther, the atmosphere on the field was mobilized again. After all, one more elf appeared, which meant that they had more fun. According to the rules, Xuanjian summoned Scyther, so the opponent had one more elf on the field. The opponent did not neglect it and summoned a toucan. For a time, the two sides upgraded from singles to doubles. Under normal circumstances, the Z move requires the assistance of the trainer and the Pokémon. The trainer stimulates the natural energy through the crystal, and then transmits it to the Pokémon through the resonance between the crystals, amplifying and strengthening the Pokémon, greatly improving the skill effect. This special skill in Alala, which is also a tourist resort, is obviously not something that the opponent can master. The opponent just uses banned drugs to release the vitality of the cat boss and uses it in attack, catalyzing the skill upgrade with higher quality vitality. The effects of the two are similar, but the sequelae are very different. The real Z move is a great burden on both the Pokémon and the trainer, and it is difficult to use it continuously, but the Pokémon will only lose strength after using it. However, the catalysis of banned drugs completely releases the vitality. After using it, the Pokémon looks unchanged, but even more radiant, but in fact the source of life has been damaged and the lifespan has been severely shortened. After releasing 1,000,000 volts, The cat boss looks more and more energetic under the effect of the remaining vitality in his body, but Xuanjian can clearly sense that the opponent is actually strong on the outside but weak on the inside. The stimulation of vitality allows it to recover quickly from any injuries, and it is tireless, but in fact, the source of life has been damaged. This cat boss can be said to be completely destroyed. However, these are not what Xuanjian needs to consider at present. The cat boss with stimulated vitality is almost invincible. It has a strong self-healing ability and can use Z-big moves continuously. There is no need to worry about the body being unable to withstand the backlash and collapse before the vitality is exhausted. This situation is almost unsolvable. Although both sides summoned elves, Xuanjian was obviously at a disadvantage. The two elves on his side were restrained by the electric attribute at the same time, and the cat boss had already demonstrated its powerful electric tricks. If he confronted head-on, he would definitely lose miserably. What he can do now is to keep delaying time until the effect of the drug is over or the cat boss's vitality is completely exhausted, so that he can have hope of winning. Having said that, Xuanjian really has no confidence in whether he can resist until the effect of the drug ends. After all, the strength of the two sides is too different. The only consolation is that the two elves of the other side do not seem to be harmonious and seem to have no experience in doubles, which is undoubtedly an advantage for him. The opponent seemed to be unconcerned about Xuanjian's plan, and did not urge Cat Boss to launch an attack. He just ordered the toucan to fly a little higher to avoid being accidentally injured by Cat Boss. Under the influence of drugs, Cat Boss only had the idea of crazy attack in his mind, and would not have any idea of cooperation. Even if he was awake, he would not have too much cooperation with the toucan. After all, the two sides had never cooperated before. The purpose of summoning the toucan was just to prevent the opponent from taking the opportunity to attack him. The effect of the banned drugs was still continuing, and the vitality was constantly being released and transformed. Cat Boss soon launched another attack. It was still the electric trick 100,000 volts, but this time the current was not as dispersed as before, but condensed together and shot over like a drill. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96 Doubles. Spy Mantis, use guard again to stop it. Facing the fierce attack of Cat Boss, Xuanjian had to continue to order Spy Mantis to take the lead. The guard skill will fail easily if used continuously, but in the current situation, Xuanjian could not find a better way except to use guard to defend. Fortunately, luck was on Xuanjian's side this time. Spy Mantis successfully used guard again to block Cat Boss's attack, but it was also hurt again. It is difficult to completely block such a powerful move with guard. Xuanjian realized that if he continued to be passive like this, he would lose. What should he do? Using Shadow Clone to confuse the opponent will definitely not work, because the opponent can attack him directly. Once this happens, Spy Mantis and Starfish will have to play back, and then their true bodies will be exposed. It seems that the only way is to attack preemptively. Starfish, use small first, then use the suction cup on your feet to attach to Spy Mantis's chest. Spy Mantis, take Starfish to attack Cat Boss at close range. After thinking again and again, Xuanjian decided to give up the two's cover for him and let them fight against Cat Boss with all their strength. The two Pokémon hesitated about Xuanjian's order, but still followed it. Starfish jumped up and squeezed out a lot of water from her body, making herself lighter and smaller. Scythe also opened her sickle, exposing her chest, letting Starfish land on it, and then tightly attached to Scythe's chest with a suction cup. In this way, Scythe looked like she was wearing a heart-protecting mirror. Although it was the first time to cooperate like this, since they were very familiar with each other before, the two sides seemed to have a tacit understanding. After the combination was completed, Scythe immediately flapped its wings and turned into a residual image and rushed towards Cat Boss. The opponent's trainer and Pokémon were obviously a little surprised by such a weird combination, but Xuanjian would not give them time to adapt. Seeing Scythe approaching Cat Boss, he immediately ordered, Starfish, use Mental Wave, Scythe, use Continuous Slash. Starfish, who was attached to Scythe's chest, attacked first, and a wave of thought was emitted from the gem, impacting Cat Boss's spirit. The purpose of the psychic mental wave was not to cause damage, but to assist the next attack. Under the impact of the thought wave, a trace of confusion flashed in the eyes of the cat boss, and even the tense muscles relaxed. Scythe took the opportunity to rush forward and launched a continuous slash. The cat boss had lost his previous agility due to the effect of the drug, and was even more slow to react after being attacked by the sea star. Scythe's continuous slash was successfully performed. The first attack hit the lower jaw, knocking it back and flying, followed by a burst of style attacks. After the combat training, Scythe has made a great breakthrough in the continuous slash skill. With the help of the breathing method, the longer key pulse allows it to double the number of continuous slashes. In an instant, it completed 10 attacks and beat the cat boss without any resistance. After completing the attack, Scythe spread its wings and quickly returned to Xuanjian to prevent the opponent from taking the opportunity to attack Xuanjian. This attack was fast and fierce. Before everyone could react, Scythe had completed the attack and quickly returned to defense, leaving only the cat boss who was beaten to the ground like a puddle of mud. The opponent's trainer also responded at this time and issued an order to Toucan. Toucan immediately sent out a destructive death ray to attack Xuanjian, but was stopped by Starfish and Scyther, who returned to defend. The effect of the banned drug is powerful. The cat boss who fell to the ground did not lose his combat effectiveness, but quickly climbed up, and even the wounds on his body were almost healed. However, since it was not a normal recovery, all the hair on the wound fell off, leaving all kinds of horrible scabs, which looked particularly hideous. "Continue to attack, don't worry about me," Xuanjian ordered. Scyther nodded, and once again took Starfish, exerted its lightning speed, and rushed towards the cat boss. Seeing the enemy rushing over, the cat boss immediately launched a counterattack. It did not use 100,000 volts again. After all, this skill also requires a certain amount of power for it. It turned to spit out shadow balls from its mouth to attack continuously. Under the effect of the banned drug, the cat boss can not only use the shadow ball continuously without taking a breath, but also the power of the shadow ball is much greater. Although it can't reach the level of Z big move, Scyther dare not face it head on. After all, one attack can be blocked, but the subsequent continuous attacks are difficult to eat. So Scyther can only dodge continuously, and Haixing shoots out shining light with superb shooting skills to help Scyther block those difficult to avoid shadow balls. I don't know if Haixing's understanding of the properties of rocks has deepened when he used the protective color to change the properties just now, and he actually learned a new skill, the power gem, at this moment. While dodging continuously, Scyther also charged up to send out a whirlwind knife to counterattack the cat boss, leaving him with a lot of scars. Seeing that the two elves successfully attracted the attention of the cat boss and could counterattack the cat boss from time to time, Xuanjian praised, "Well done, keep doing this. As long as you can keep dragging the cat boss, victory will be on your side." The cat boss with the strongest attack power was entangled, which obviously did not meet the wishes of the cloak man. After all, the banned drugs have a time limit, and the cat boss's own vitality is also limited. Once it is squandered, there will be no resistance at all. So the cloak man ordered the cat boss to change his target and attack Xuanjian. Unfortunately, the banned drugs not only improved the cat boss's strength, but also made him a little crazy. At this moment, he was completely immersed in the game of chasing Scyther, and completely ignored the cloak man's orders. There was no way the cloak man could only order the toucan to attack Xuanjian. For the flying elves, Xuanjian was completely unable to resist and could only keep dodging. Xuanjian sighed that he definitely had a grudge against this kind of elves, otherwise how could he be chased by the other party so embarrassed again and again? Fortunately, the arena was surrounded by iron cages and the space was limited. As a flying type, the toucan mainly used physical attack skills, which could not be fully displayed in the narrow space, so Xuanjian was caught in a dilemma and did not suffer any serious injuries. Although Scyther was somewhat disabled, it was very fast and powerful. Even with Starfish, it did not slow down at all. With the cooperation of Starfish, it easily dodged all the attacks of Cat Boss and occasionally fought back with a whirlwind knife. Unable to attack the opponent and being hit back by the opponent from time to time, Cat Boss was completely furious. Coupled with the effects of certain neurological drugs in the banned drugs, Cat Boss completely entered a frenzy state. If the original vitality of Cat Boss was stimulated like the water flow from a broken faucet, then after the frenzy, this faucet became a high-pressure water gun. A large amount of vitality was transformed and entered the cells of Cat Boss, and released through the 100,000 volt skill. A large amount of electric light drilled out of Cat Boss's body and enveloped the whole scene. Except for the toucan, who quickly took off when he saw the bad situation. All people and energy, including the cloaked man, became its target of attack. Chapter 97 Gem Starfish. Scyther landed in front of Xuanjian before the electric light enveloped it, and tried to use hold, but unfortunately the god of luck did not favor it this time, and hold failed. Xuanjian secretly cried out that it was not good, and the two elves on his side were restrained by the electric system, and it would be absolutely finished if they were hit. At the critical moment, Xing rushed out, blocked in front of everyone, and used the protective color skill. The skill took effect only after the electric current hit Xing. Using this time difference, Xing changed its attribute to electric attribute, and its ability to resist electricity was greatly enhanced. And the electric current also gathered towards Xing like a young swallow returning to its nest, allowing Xuanjian and Scyther to escape. The violent electric light filled the whole field, and the cloaked man also groaned, and shouted something angrily to the cat boss, which made the cat boss regain some reason and try to converge the electric light flowing to him and turn it to Xuanjian's side. However, the cat boss was also powerless against these out-of-control electric currents, and did not let the cloaked man get rid of the electric shock, and the current flowing to Xuanjian was all sucked over by Xing. Xuanjian looked at Xing worriedly. Although the damage to Xing after she turned into an electric attribute would be halved, even a real electric attribute elf might not be able to withstand such a strong current. Xing, come on and hold on. This guy can't hold on for much longer. Xuanjian encouraged loudly. This was not a lie. It was Xuanjian's judgment based on the situation of Cat Boss. Under normal circumstances, the vitality of a person or an elf is hidden deep in the body, just like the water in a reservoir. It will only be used slowly and efficiently through evaporation and infiltration. What the banned drugs do is to open a hole in the dam of the reservoir to release the vitality more quickly. At this time, although the conversion utilization rate is reduced, it is still within the control range. When Cat Boss entered the frenzy, the hole was infinitely expanded, and even caused the collapse of the dam. All the water poured out in a short time, and it was completely out of control. Cat Boss's out of control 100,000 volts was the best proof. Although 100,000 volts covered the entire field very powerfully, its lethality was actually not as strong as before. As long as you hold on, everything will be smooth sailing. Xing only temporarily transformed into an electric attribute, and even if the damage was weakened, it still existed. Xing soon became a little shaky. At this time, Scyther finally succeeded in using the hold again after many attempts, and immediately landed in front of Xing and began to defend on behalf of Xing. Xuanjian quickly supported Xing and asked with concern, Xing, are you okay? At the same time, he transmitted the power of Changpan in his body to help Xing heal. Xing stored a large amount of electric current in his body, which was just absorbed by force to protect Xuanjian and Scyther. These powers from the cat boss constantly destroyed Xing's body. Finally, Xing, who was seriously injured, could no longer maintain the protective color skill, and the skill stopped automatically. After the skill stopped, Xing immediately lost its electric attribute and lost the ability to control the electric current. The electric current in its body was immediately released, and Xuanjian, who was supporting it, suffered the electric current attack together. Under the electric current attack, Xuanjian did not let Xing go, but accompanied it silently to endure the pain of being electrocuted, and shared some of the electric current damage for it. This was the only thing he could do for Xing. After all, these currents were absorbed, and they were rootless duckweed. Although they were intense, they passed quickly. After the current passed, Xing actually emitted white light and began to evolve. In fact, when Xuanjian recovered Xing, its level was not low, but because it was born too short, its body had not fully developed, and many skills had not been learned, so Xuanjian did not let it evolve immediately in order to better cultivate Xing. After a series of travels and getting along, it did meet the requirements, but unfortunately Xuanjian no longer had the water stone in his hand, so Xing has always maintained its original form. But Xuanjian didn't know that Xing absorbed a lot of pure water energy in the sea and sky abyss, and did not need the water stone to help it evolve. The reason why it has not evolved for a long time is that the pure water energy absorbed from the sea and sky abyss condensed into tiny water stones in its body after leaving the sea and sky abyss, blocking the path of evolution. In this case, as long as Hyzinxing continues to improve its level, it can gradually absorb the energy in the water stone. As long as the time is long enough, it will eventually evolve. But this battle accelerated this process. When the electric energy absorbed by starfish goes out of control, it will naturally interact with the water stone, causing the energy of the water stone to be released. This energy supplements the last brick needed for starfish's evolution, and evolution naturally occurs. The water energy of the abyss of the sea and sky has undergone some changes and has a healing effect. If it is condensed into a water stone in the outside world, this effect will disappear. But the water stone condensed in starfish's body retains this effect. After these energies are released, they immediately begin to heal starfish. Coupled with the effect of Changpan's power and starfish's own strong recovery ability, starfish quickly recovers and grows 5 legs again, evolving into gem starfish. Gem starfish has completed its evolution and immediately released its newly acquired skill, the light wall, to replace Scythe, whose guarding skill has ended and who uses his body to resist damage. Then, it activates its protective color again in the small electric current passing through the light wall, turning into an electric attribute and absorbing it. These small electric currents can no longer cause effective damage to it. Well done, Gem Starfish. Xuanjian praised while transferring the power of Changpan to Scyther's wounds. The gem of Gem Starfish flickered for a while, conveying a sense of pride, and then the gem lit up again, absorbing a string of small light spots from all around to strengthen the body. Xuanjian recognized that this was the psychic skill cosmic power, which could absorb mysterious power from the universe to improve both defenses. The healing effect of the power of Changpan was very good. Even though Xuanjian could only use a very weak one, it quickly healed the electric shock damage suffered by Scyther. At this time, the vitality of the cat boss had reached a bottom due to his squandering. Without the vitality to heal quickly, his body was basically drained by the banned drugs, leaving only a shell. The cat boss could no longer withstand the 100,000-volt electric current that was comparable to the Z ultimate move, and his body was instantly turned into charcoal by the uncontrolled electric current. The lightning of the cat boss disappeared. Xuanjian, who had expected this, immediately ordered, "Everyone attack the toucans together. Don't give him the chance to take banned drugs again." The toucans were clearly the elves that the other party had carefully cultivated. Their strength was definitely stronger than that of the cat boss. If they let the other party take banned drugs again, they would definitely lose with all the elves on their side injured. Hearing Xuanjian's order, Scyther immediately took off and rushed towards the toucans. And the gem star also shot a strange lavender light at the toucans. Before the toucans could react to the failure of the cat boss, they were immediately hit by the strange light and fell into chaos. Then they were knocked down by the back of the knife by the rushing Scyther, and then they lost the battle in the continuous slash of Scyther. "We won!" Xuanjian shouted excitedly. Since his debut, he had never had such a difficult battle, but after the cooperation between himself and the elves, he finally won. Starfish and Scyther also breathed a sigh of relief, dragging their exhausted bodies back to Xuanjian. Even though their injuries were healed by the power of Changpan, they were almost at their limit after such a high-intensity battle. I said I always felt like there was something left unfinished, and it turned out that it hadn't been updated yet. Thanks to Nide, Nixay, and Silver King for the tips. Everyone knows the quality of Kidian's app. My writer assistant often doesn't give feedback in a timely manner. If there are any omissions, you can tell me in the book review area or QQ me in the group. Chapter 98 Reinforcements. The cat boss who was just showing off his power turned into charcoal in an instant. From being suppressed and struggling to hold on to turning the tables and winning the victory, such a change is complicated to say, but it was actually completed in a very short time. The audience around was still immersed in the various amazing things that the cat boss had just done, and they couldn't believe that Xuanjian had won. But the traces of damage caused by the skills on the stone slabs of the venue and the pile of charcoal on the ground clearly told everyone that all this was true. Jamie also opened his mouth in surprise, and couldn't believe that Xuanjian actually won. According to the rules, the casino should give the bonus to Xuanjian, but Jamie was a little unwilling. Ordinary people work hard every day and can't earn so much money in a year. A stinky kid actually made a fortune so easily. And the casino is not unable to lose. For the big guys behind the scenes, this little money is not a problem. What they want is to establish rules so that people will consciously respect and believe in the casino. As long as the casino stands firm, Funds will flow in like water. It's just that under normal circumstances, if no one takes the bet, it will be awarded as a prize to everyone in the arena, and he can also get a large share. But now that Xuanjian has won the prize, he and others will lose a sum of income. Money is tempting. Jamie rolled his eyes and saw that Xuanjian was very tired, and the elves were almost exhausted. He immediately came up with a trick. "Congratulations to this challenger, you have won all the prize money for this game," Jamie said loudly, attracting the attention of the audience, and then continued, "Then next, you will enter the second round and challenge a new opponent. After winning, you will get more prize money." Xuanjian looked at Jamie speechlessly. Although he knew that the other party might play rogue, the feeling of guessing the answer in advance was not very good. "Sorry, I won't participate in the next game. I think according to the rules, I have beaten enough opponents, and I have won. Do you want to violate the rules set by the casino itself? Your rules don't say that the final right of interpretation belongs to the casino. Let's see what you can do." Jamie was speechless for a moment. The casino's rules were indeed like this, but the challengers had always defeated the elves in normal state at most, and had never defeated the elves who took banned drugs. This time, Jamie changed the rules without authorization, just to make Xuanjian continue to challenge, and finally lose the prize. However, although everyone knew this thought, Jamie would not admit it. Jamie rolled his eyes and said, "Don't rush to leave. The game just now was too exciting. Unfortunately, no one was satisfied, so I invited you to play another game." Then he turned to the audience and said loudly, "Everyone, is this right? Do you want this gentleman to continue to challenge? Want to leave after winning the money? How can it be so simple?" The conscience of the audience around has long been annihilated. They don't care whether Jamie violated the rules or not. They just want to watch the fight. Moreover, most people just bet on the casino to win, and now they have lost everything. Seeing Xuanjian win a large sum of money, they can't help but have some dark thoughts and want Xuanjian to lose everything. Hearing Jamie's call, they immediately shouted, "Keep fighting! Keep fighting! Look, everyone is so enthusiastic, how can you refuse? Think about it, as long as you win again, the prize money will increase tenfold. 10 times, 2 million. That will be money that many people cannot earn in their entire lives. The expenses required to become an excellent trainer are very high. Those skill machines and various props are all very expensive. I believe you have also realized how difficult this road is. This 200,000 bonus can only quench your thirst for a while, but if you continue to challenge, you will get 2 million, or even 20 million or 200 million bonuses. With those bonuses, you can give your Pokémon the best training conditions, or directly purchase various precious Pokémon from the black market, and becoming famous is just around the corner." Jamie tempted. Unfortunately, Xuanjian, who had been baptized by various scams in the 21st century, was not so easily tempted. He shook his head firmly. "Sorry, this money is enough for me to use for a long time. There is an old saying in my hometown that people should learn to be content and be happy with what they have. Funds are indeed important for a trainer, but they are not the most important, otherwise those nobles would not have fallen one after another. Many people lose everything when gambling. Many times it is because they are too greedy and don't know how to stop when they are ahead. In the end, the cause and effect cycle turns and they lose everything." Seeing Xuanjian was unmoved and not tempted at all, Jamie was a little annoyed. He gently turned off the microphone on his collar, came to Xuanjian, and said to him, "Boy, don't be shameless. Play honestly, I guarantee your personal safety, otherwise don't blame me for using tricks." Xuanjian was indifferent to Jamie's threat. He clasped his hands on the Pokeball at his waist, ready to fight at any time. "Haha, you don't follow the rules and use tricks, and you still say that I don't know what's good for you. Are the rules of your casino just for show?" "The rules of the casino are certainly not for show, but that is the will of the big boss behind the scenes, and it has nothing to do with me. Besides, I am the one in charge here now, I can do whatever I want." "Boy, you asked for it." Jamie squinted his eyes and glanced at Xuanjian, then turned on the microphone, left Xuanjian, and said to the audience, "Everyone, this gentleman has agreed to continue the challenge under my persuasion, let's cheer." Hearing Jamie's words, the audience immediately boiled up. Some cheered loudly, and some called the bunny girl, wanting to rebet. In short, no one cared whether Xuanjian really agreed to continue the challenge. At the moment Jamie opened his mouth, Xuanjian felt several strands of telekinesis falling on him, binding him, and even with his powerful mental power, it was difficult to resist it. Xuanjian kept struggling, trying to break free from the telekinesis, and when Jamie announced that the challenge would continue, the cloaked man immediately summoned a Nidoking and a monster, and launched an attack on the exhausted gem starfish and scyther. Damn, I still underestimated the opponent. Xuanjian cursed secretly, thinking that with his own strength, as long as he was careful, he could retreat completely. I didn't expect that the opponent actually had so many elves that could use telekinesis. Under the suppression of telekinesis, I couldn't even speak, let alone exchange elves. Otherwise, it would not be difficult for me to summon Gyarados and Dragonite to wipe out the opponent. Duoga in the audience also saw that Xuanjian was not right and wanted to come up to help, but was stopped by Caesar. Under the attack of Nidoking and Strange, Starfish and Scyther lost their combat effectiveness one after another and were about to face the fate of Rattata. Xuanjian was extremely anxious and was about to fully detonate the power of Changpan in his body to break free from the suppression of telekinesis. Suddenly, a green figure appeared out of thin air in front of the two fallen elves and slapped the ground with one palm. Suddenly, several stone slabs stood up one after another, blocking the attack of Strange and Nidoking, and then sent a wave to Xuanjian, releasing the suppression of telekinesis. Alito. Xuanjian looked at the elves that suddenly appeared on the field and was a little surprised. He didn't understand why the other party helped him. It seemed that none of his friends and acquaintances used such precious elves. Who? The cloaked man looked at Alito with some doubt and said the first sentence Xuanjian understood since he came on the stage. Xuanjian took advantage of Alito's protection and quickly took back Scyther and Starfish, and then looked at the cloaked man. It turned out that this guy could speak normally. At the same time, Xuanjian looked at Alito who helped him. His limbs were strong and powerful, and he exuded a fierce aura. He was a very strong guy at first glance. No wonder the cloaked man immediately called for Strange and Nidoking to return to defense when he saw it. Alito would not and did not bother to answer the cloaked man's questions. It just showed the blade on its arm and quietly guarded Xuanjian. Its posture was meticulous, like a palace guard on a mission. The two sides confronted each other in such a weird way, and no one dared to make the first move. The audience who did not know the truth thought that Alito was a new elf summoned by Xuanjian, and cheered loudly. Amid the cheers of the crowd, a young man with red hair, brown eyes, and a cat-faced mask walked up to the stage slowly. Well done, Alito. The other party praised Alito, but Alito completely ignored his praise, which made him embarrassed. What's the matter, sir? We are in the challenge match. If you want to challenge, please wait for the next match. Jamie asked. The young man pointed at Xuanjian. Nothing, but my friend has something to do, and may not be able to continue to participate in the challenge tonight. Of course, please rest assured that we will not forget to take away the previous bonuses, but forget about this round. The young man said in a tone of "You are taking advantage of me," completely ignoring Jamie's ugly face. Seeing that Alito had dispelled the combined power of many elves with one strike, Jamie squeezed out an ugly smile. Sir, this is not in accordance with the rules. Swoosh. Alito raised his arm, and a leaf blade slashed across Jamie's forehead, cutting off a tuft of hair, scaring Jamie to shut up instantly. What did you say just now? I didn't hear it clearly. Nothing, sir. Jamie said with a sad face, but his eyes kept turning, and I don't know what he was thinking. Well, that's good. I'll take the person away. By the way, if you have anything, you can call me on this number. The young man raised his right hand lightly, and a business card flew from his hand to Jamie and hit him accurately on the face. The young man smiled embarrassedly. Sorry, I wanted to throw it into your mouth so that you can hold it, but the technique is not yet up to par, so I offend you. Xuanjian secretly complained on the side. Is it not offensive to throw it into someone's mouth? At the same time, he looked at the business card that fell from Jamie's face to the ground. At this time, the back of the business card is facing up, and the content on the front cannot be seen, but the capital R clearly indicates the identity of the other party. And Jamie recognized the purple pattern on the edge of this business card, which can only be used by the core members of the Rockets. That is a person who can sit on an equal footing with the big boss behind the arena. Now Jamie completely stopped thinking. The opponent was not only powerful, but also had a strong backstage. He was not someone he could contend with. What are you daydreaming about? The young man pushed Xuanjian. Let's go, we still have things to do. Then he turned around and left first. Alito followed closely behind, but when he left, he was very considerate and used telekinesis to move all the bets together. Xuanjian did not dare to neglect it. He carried Abu, who was still unconscious on the sidelines, and followed. Jamie also obviously recognized the origin of the business card. After all, the rocket team's power was second to none among the many villain forces. Compared with the other party, his family was not at the same level. Therefore, he did not dare to stop the other party from taking Xuanjian away. Seeing Xuanjian leaving the arena, Duoga immediately left Caesar and rushed over, hugged Xuanjian tightly, and sobbed softly. "It's okay, it's okay." Xuanjian patted Duoga on the back and comforted him. After all, Duoga was not an ordinary girl. She quickly calmed down and let go of Xuanjian embarrassedly. He cursed himself secretly for being so impulsive. It was so embarrassing. Fortunately, the mask was covering it, otherwise it would be so embarrassing. In order to divert attention, Duoga looked at the young man and asked Xuanjian, "Who is this?" Xuanjian was a little embarrassed to answer, as he knew nothing about the other party's name. "Yato Aiden, just call me Yato." The young man replied, "Let's leave here first and talk later." "Well," Xuanjian nodded, carrying Abu on his back and was about to follow. Duoga was a little hesitant. "What's wrong?" Xuanjian keenly noticed Duoga's hesitation. Duoga looked at Yato with some embarrassment and said, "I bet on you to win just now." He didn't know what was wrong with his brain at the time, and he directly bet all the funds he could mobilize from the family. If he didn't get it back, he would have no way to explain. Small problem, small problem. Jamie also adjusted himself at this moment, and said flatteringly, "Please rest assured, we will definitely transfer all the money you won to the card you just used to pay." Yato nodded with satisfaction, "As soon as possible. If it's late, I will ask someone to ask your boss for it." Hearing Yato's words, Jamie was so respectful that his waist almost bent to the ground, and said flatteringly, "Don't worry, sir, I guarantee it with the reputation of our arena." Yato nodded with satisfaction, "Your business is quite big, and your reputation is still trustworthy. I will remember this favor." Then, Jamie led everyone away with a flattering smile. "Who is this? So cool. What big boss?" Look at Jamie's flattering look. As the group left, the audience began to talk. In the perception, although Jamie usually looks funny, he is actually very arrogant. They have never seen him flatter anyone like this. Jamie didn't care about the audience's discussion at all. It was so wonderful to have a Rockets executive owe me a favor. If I report this myself, I will definitely be appreciated by the boss. At this time, a bunny girl hurried over and whispered a few words in his ear. Jamie's face changed immediately. "What? That woman bet 10 million on that guy? Didn't you say that not many people bought the guy?" Jamie was stunned by the bunny girl's words and forgot to turn off the microphone. His unbelievable voice immediately spread throughout the audience. Jamie, who realized his mistake, quickly turned off the microphone and turned to the bunny girl, but at this time, the attention of the whole audience was attracted. The bunny girl nodded tremblingly. The female companion of the challenger bet 10 million. She is the only one who bet on the challenger. Jamie felt a black screen in front of his eyes. With 10 million funds, according to the odds just now, the casino will definitely go bankrupt. What should I do? If the casino goes bankrupt, he will definitely not end well. But I just promised the other party. If I break it, then the favor will turn into an enemy, and I won't have a good ending. Nix A, your extras have been delivered. There will be follow-up descriptions later. Are you satisfied? Welcome everyone to actively contribute extras. Please vote, reward, and all kinds of requests. Chapter 99 Identity. With Duoga and Xuanjian, Yato came to a drink shop that was still open. Under the strange eyes of the salesperson, everyone ordered their own drinks and then asked for a private room. After all, everyone was carrying so much money, which was too eye-catching. After entering the private room, Yato took off the mask on his face and threw it on the table casually, revealing a somewhat listless face, and then fell on the sofa without image, holding his head with both hands, stretched his waist, and uttered a satisfied groan. Yato's actions were exchanged for a burst of contempt from Alito. For an elf who pays great attention to etiquette, it is really embarrassing to have such a master. So Alito put the things held by telekinesis on the table, pressed the elf ball on Yato's waist, and hid in. Xuanjian put Abu on his back on a sofa. Duoga checked and confirmed that the other party just fainted due to concussion in the brain, and there was nothing wrong. Then the two sat down opposite Yatuo. Looking at Xuanjian and Duoga who were sitting upright, Yatuo waved his hand. Don't be so serious, relax a little. Yes, the two of them relaxed a little after hearing that. After all, it was very tiring to always maintain a standard etiquette sitting posture. That's good. No need to be so serious. Looking at the two people who relaxed, Yatuo nodded with satisfaction, and then said to Xuanjian, you don't have to treat me as a big shot. I'm just a trainer under Xiaobo. I happen to be on vacation in the Orange Islands. Then Xiaobo found me and asked me to give you some special training to prepare for entering the dream world. It just so happened that I saw you in the arena, so I took the opportunity to pull you out. The business card you gave me also belongs to Xiaobo, so the favor is owed by Xiaobo, and it has nothing to do with me. But I still have to thank you for your help. Xuanjian bowed respectfully. No matter what, the other party helped him a lot, which is an indisputable fact. You're welcome, Yatuo said, and then pointed to the money on the table. This money is what you deserve, but I have to pay for my efforts. How about I take half? Of course, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't get a penny. It's really polite of you to ask for half. At the same time, he looked at Xuanjian curiously. By the way, Xiaobo said that he wanted to restart the evolution experiment with a very high mortality rate. Are you really determined to be the only test subject? Yes. Xuanjian nodded calmly. But Duoga on the side obviously couldn't be so calm, and immediately asked, Mr. Yatuo, what experiment is it? He stared at Xuanjian. Before, Xuanjian only said that Xiaobo would help Scyther evolve, and didn't say there would be any risks. And aren't you a researcher? How did you suddenly become the subject of research? Nothing, 1 or 2 sentences can't explain it clearly. I will explain it to you later. Xuanjian touched his nose, embarrassed, and didn't dare to look into Duoga's eyes. It's really strange. It's your own business whether to participate in the experiment or not. Why do you feel a little insecure under the other party's questioning? Yatuo had no intention of getting involved in the conflict between the two. He drank his milk tea by himself. When the two of them calmed down again, he said, your Scyther strength is okay, but the dream world is a dangerous place after all. The more prepared the better. So tomorrow, we will start special training. Yes, thank you for your guidance, senior. Thank you for your help. Xuanjian said in surprise. The other party was a powerful trainer at first glance. It would be great if he could give him some advice. Well, then we will meet at the beach in the west at noon. Yatuo said, then it's getting late. You should go back first. There are enough things tonight. Go back and have a good rest. Leave the boys' words here. Yes, then we will leave first. Xuanjian and Duoga stood up and saluted, then walked out. By the way, when you go out, ask the waiter to bring me a blanket. It's a bit cold at night. After leaving the beverage shop, the two walked on the way back to the hotel. Perhaps it was too deserted on the street late at night, and the two felt embarrassed. What happened tonight had a big impact on the two of them, causing Duoga, who is always introverted, to show all kinds of emotions. Even a slow-witted guy like Xuanjian vaguely felt something, but he just hadn't figured it out yet. However, this did not prevent a weird atmosphere from growing between the two of them. In the end, it was Duoga who spoke first to break the awkwardness. Xuanjian, what's going on with that experiment? When it came to business, Xuanjian immediately got rid of the awkward state and introduced Xiaobo's experiment to Duoga in detail. At the same time, he kept assuring Duoga that the experiment was not as dangerous as rumored, and that he would be able to get through it safely. Duoga bit her lip and didn't speak for a long time. She was not someone who was so easy to fool. If the experiment was really not dangerous, then why didn't others participate? Why did Xiaobo specifically ask Yatuo to give Xuanjian special training? However, seeing Xuanjian nagging and constantly assuring him, Duoga sighed in his heart and said, well, I know. But you must be safe. Don't worry, I always keep my word. Humph, you always think I'm easy to fool. You also promised the same thing during the last shipwreck. Haha, really? Xuanjian grabbed his head and pretended to be stupid. The two returned to the hotel soon, and in the hotel lobby, Caesar, who had not caught up with the others just now, was already waiting there. Seeing the two come back, Caesar immediately came up to them. Where did you go? Where is that gentleman? Xuanjian glanced at Caesar. Although he was mostly responsible for what happened tonight due to his impulsiveness, Caesar definitely made some moves. When they came out, the route they took was not the one Caesar took them. Yato said that the route they were taking now was the normal route, and the route they took before was a small path similar to the back door, which few people knew about. Given their age and the way they were dressed like league trainers, the guard would not let them in under normal circumstances. Moreover, after he made the challenge, Jamie hesitated at first, but then the bunny girl said something to him that changed his attitude. In Xuanjian's opinion, it was obvious that someone had leaked his situation, and the only person who could and would do this was obviously Caesar. It was too dangerous to keep such a guy with ulterior motives around. Xuanjian walked quickly to Caesar, stopped Caesar who was walking towards the multi-track, took out the energy cube and formula from his backpack, and stuffed them into Caesar's hand. "This is what you gave me, and now I return it to you intact. I promise that I will never use that formula in my life. If you still feel it is not enough, you can make a request, and I will do my best to compensate you." Caesar held the things, speechless for a while. Xuanjian ignored his surprise and turned to Duo Gui and said, "Duo Gui, I'm very sorry. I was greedy for a moment and did something wrong. I agreed to the other party's request to get close to you. Please forgive me." Duo Gui glared at Xuanjian with a look of disappointment. Strictly speaking, Xuanjian's behavior was not a big deal. After all, in his opinion, the two were just close friends. The transaction between the two was essentially the same as many boys trying to please their girlfriends when chasing their girlfriends. But he didn't just want to be ordinary friends with him, so this matter became a little hard to forgive. But looking at the silly Xuanjian, Duo Gui softened his heart. "HMPH, let's see how you perform in the future." "Well, I will definitely not make mistakes again." Xuanjian knew that Duo Gui had forgiven him, and hurriedly promised. Duo Gui pouted, "Idiot, this is not the kind of guarantee I want." On the other side, Caesar cursed secretly, "Damn it, why did this kid become so sensitive this time? But I had thought about how to deal with it before, and I could completely cover it up." So he explained to Duoge, "Duoge, he is talking nonsense, you have to believe me. Although I took you to the underground arena, I didn't mean to harm Xuanjian. I took you a detour just because you couldn't get in if you go through the main gate." Duoge shook his head and said to Caesar, "Whether you did it on purpose or not, you are no longer worthy of being our partner since you provoked us last time. I agreed to travel with you because I was so angry that I wanted to use you to teach some idiot a lesson. But now I understand, I was wrong, let's travel separately in the future." Hearing Duoge's words, Caesar was hit hard and became a little hoarse. "Miss Duoge, do you know what you are saying? You will get nothing by being with that poor boy. Give up him and choose me. I can help you realize your wish to revive the family and your ambition to become a great breeder." Duoge smiled and said, "I know what I have chosen. I will realize my wishes and ambitions through my own efforts. Although it is comfortable to sleep in a high-end hotel, the Pokémon Center is more reassuring." After that, he said no more nonsense, took Xuanjian and turned away, leaving Caesar standing alone at the door of the hotel. "Master, what should we do?" Not long after Duoge left, number 2 and number 7 appeared beside Caesar. "Have you found out who rescued Xuanjian?" "No, the other party is very strong. The other party disappeared from the cold drink shop with the teleportation of Alito." Number 7 said. "It might be someone related to the underworld." After Jamie in the Colosseum received a business card left by the other party, he was very well behaved. Even the huge bet placed by Miss Duoge was fully honored according to the odds. Number 2 said, "It's all my fault. I couldn't deal with that guy directly in the Colosseum. I didn't expect the people in the Colosseum to be so useless. They couldn't beat that guy even with the use of banned drugs. If I had known, I would have gone up myself." "Forget it," Caesar shook his head. "That guy is more difficult to deal with than we thought, and his background doesn't seem to be simple. It seems that the plan has failed." Number 2 and number 7 looked at each other. "What about the family? Don't report to them first. This plan has failed, so let's take a step back and try a more troublesome way. I already have a plan. You are worthy of being the young master." Number 2 and number 7 complimented. "I wonder if your subordinates have heard of it." "Of course, we still need your help. Let's do this. There are so many things this week, so the update may be a little unstable, please forgive me. I will make up for it later." Chapter 100. Abu. The two stayed in the hotel that night. After all, the room fee had been paid, and they lived in separate rooms, so it didn't affect them. The hotel had a special therapist, so there was no need to go to the Pokémon Center, but the price was very expensive, which made Xuanjian deeply sigh that the Pokémon Center was really conscientious. Compared with the Pokémon Center, Joey chose to use the most cost-effective treatment method. The therapists in the hotel used whatever worked best and used a lot of precious drugs. However, the effect was immediate. When Xuanjian got up the next day, Scythe and Gem Starfish were already standing in front of him in high spirits. After having breakfast with Duoge, they didn't care about Caesar who didn't show up. The two came to the destination that Yedo said early to wait. By the way, didn't Yedo say it was noon? Why do we have to come so early? Duoge asked with a yawn. She slept too late last night and she was still a little sleepy. Wouldn't it be more sincere if we came earlier? Xuanjian said. For a person who has been deeply influenced by Chinese culture, sincerity has been important since a long time ago. For learners, the best way to show sincerity is to arrive early and wait. Haven't you seen Zhang Liang go to Wang Shigan for advice? He had to go there in the middle of the night. However, Xuanjian obviously thought too much. Yado is not Wang Shigan. He doesn't have the kind of profound tone. Not only did the other party not come early, but he was even late. You came so early. Yado looked at the two people in surprise and asked. Well, we came in the morning. The two answered listlessly. In order to wait for each other, they stood here for several hours and even had a casual lunch. Unexpectedly, the other party not only did not come early, but was even 2 hours late. Haha, sorry, I thought everyone would have lunch at noon and then take a good nap before coming back. Yado grabbed his hair and said a little embarrassedly. Xuanjian. Yado turned around and said to a boy behind him, by the way, come here and meet him, this is Xuanjian who saved you last night. Xuanjian and Duoge only then noticed a boy behind Yado. The other party's thin figure was completely hidden behind Yado. If Yado hadn't reminded them, the two would not have found him at all. When the boy saw Xuanjian, he immediately knelt down and bowed. Hello, Master Xuanjian, thank you for saving my life. Xuanjian scratched his head awkwardly, stepped forward to help the boy up. You're welcome, it's just a small favor. Saving others was just a byproduct. The real purpose was the Super Evolution Stone. Saving the other party was just a byproduct. What should I do? Should I be generous now and return the Super Evolution Stone to the other party? After all, it was something left to him by his father. Although the young man stood up from the ground, he maintained a 90-degree bow and said to Xuanjian, Sir, thank you for saving me anyway. And according to the bet, I am already your slave. Please let me serve you by your side. Xuanjian looked at Duoge helplessly. Why are there so many people rushing to be servants recently? The Alliance has long enacted laws that slavery is a crime. Except for those who are not afraid of death, no one will take a person as a slave. And it is difficult to support yourself, let alone support such a big burden. After thinking about it, Xuanjian said, Abu, right? You don't have to take this favor to heart. By the way, how is your mother's condition? I won a lot of money last night. It's a good thing I have no place to spend it. I can lend you some. You can pay me back when you have money in the future. As for the Super Evolution Stone, I will accept it as a reward. Thank you, sir. Abu bowed to the ground again. This morning, Lord Yado has taken my mother to see a doctor. The doctor said that my mother has been working hard for many years and her body is completely exhausted. There is no medicine to save her. My mother's last wish is for me to live well and let me repay you for saving my life. I hope you will take me in. Hearing this, Xuanjian had a headache. The other party's mother knew that her son would not be able to make a name for himself in this place, and she was optimistic about his potential, so she asked the other party to serve her in order to have a good future. In this way, he can repay his gratitude and his son will have a good future in the future. It is a good thing to kill two birds with one stone. It is difficult for me to refuse the final entrustment of such a poor mother. In this silence, Yado suddenly spoke. If you want to become an outstanding researcher or trainer, then you definitely don't have much time to take care of other chores. If there is someone you trust who is willing to help you do these things, that would undoubtedly be the best. Xuanjian nodded. It was true. He was already too busy taking care of his 6 elves, so much so that he had no plans to capture new elves. This was still with Duoge's help. As he gradually grew up, there would definitely be more and more things to do, and he really needed an assistant. The young man in front of him looked trustworthy, but he was currently just following Duoga to eat and drink. If he followed him, he would have to pay for his expenses, but he didn't have that much money. The money won from gambling seemed a lot, but it was like water without a source. If he used a little bit less, or even chose the most extravagant method to improve his strength, the money would soon be spent. Therefore, although he wanted to take him in, he had no choice but to not have enough money in his wallet. As if seeing Xuanjian's difficulties, Yadou said, "Some well-known doctors in the Alliance give a certain number of illustrations and initial elves for free every year. They will give them to some talented and potential young people for free, so that they can collect information about elves while traveling and help themselves do some research. Of course, this is too far away for you, but the paper you published this year is very valuable. If you continue to maintain it, you may be evaluated as a formal researcher at the end of the year. At that time, you will have a place as an assistant. The assistant is decided by you. The Alliance will give him a salary every month, which is enough to support this little guy. Is there such a thing?" Of course, Yadou pointed to himself. "I was an assistant that Xiaobo led back then. But after he left the Alliance, he naturally left with him." Yadou didn't say the last sentence, but Xuanjian still understood what he meant. "That's not bad." Xuanjian looked at Abu. The other party should be a little younger than him, but the hardship of life made him mature very early. Being able to go to the arena for his mother shows that he is a man who values friendship and loyalty. His performance in the arena also shows that he has a certain amount of talent. It seems that it is a good choice to take him as a subordinate. In the end, Xuanjian said to Abu, "Okay, then you follow me first." "Yes, thank you, master." Hearing Xuanjian's permission, Abu immediately wanted to bow to Xuanjian happily, but was stopped by Xuanjian. "No need to bow, just be natural. And now you don't call me master or sir, well, just call me young master." Damn, he was born a young master. Why do I have to work hard to be called a young master here? It feels so cheap. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.